Chapter 49:11. Ha, fellow Jiang misunderstood. The fourth layer is obviously inside Panlong Mountain. When Zhou laughed, it's just that this old man is too lazy to fly. Moreover, when we go out, those guards will shout and keep us company. It's really noisy, so this old man usually uses the teleportation array inside Panlong Mountain. Damn it. Xiaohua heard this and laughed bitterly. On the Xiaoyu continent, the teleportation array had long been lost. Any sect that had a teleportation array was already very arrogant. However, looking at the Yilin continent, the one clan, which was not particularly famous, had many secret teleportation arrays on the Yilin continent. Even within the sect, there were so many small teleportation arrays. Alas, they really didn't treat teleportation arrays as arrays. After the teleportation array was activated, Xiaohua's divine sense swept over it. He knew that it was indeed a small teleportation array as Wenzhou said, so he smiled and asked Wenzhou to go first. After Lu Qingyu and the others entered, he was the last to step into the teleportation array. At the same time that Xiaohua stepped into the teleportation array, in a place hundreds of miles away from Panlong Mountain, in a valley that was not too barren, there was a slight vibration. The originally calm jade pool in the valley immediately set off light ripples. As soon as the water ripples appeared, faint mana fluctuations immediately appeared on the walls of the valley where only the wind and the chirping of birds could be heard. A dozen or so Aurus Core disciples wearing armor, under the leadership of a nascent soul cultivator, quietly flew out from the hidden mountain rocks and surrounded the jade pool above. Boom! After the ripples, a pillar of water like a pillar rushed into the sky. Black and white threads of light could be faintly seen in the water light, and a teleportation aura rushed out from the pillar of water and overflowed in all directions of the valley. Then, within the pillar of water, two figures appeared in the valley. These two figures fell into the encirclement of more than 10 disciples on guard. However, when these disciples saw the newcomers, they unconsciously looked at each other in dismay. Everyone looked at each other and bowed together. Disciples greet the clan head. Within the pillar of water surrounded by everyone, a man and a woman stepped on the waves and came over. The man had a strong build, a delicate face, dressed like a scholar and held a folding fan in his hand. He had a romantic appearance. As for the woman beside the man, her eyes were filled with affection. Her face was like a peach blossom, and between her ample breasts and plump buttocks, she had a slender waist that could stir up thousands of emotions. This man was naturally the head of the one family, Wen Qingfan. At this moment, Wen Qingfan's face was slightly red and his body was a little crooked. He looked a little weak as he leaned on the woman's body. The woman's full breasts were pressed against Wen Qingfan's arm. The lines of her breasts were a little out of shape. However, the woman looked at her slightly red lips and didn't show any dissatisfaction. She seemed to be whispering something into Wen Qingfan's ear. When Wen Qingfan heard that the disciples wanted to see him, he didn't care that they were looking at each other. He waved his hand and said, "All of you, rise. Quickly drive the flying boat and send this old man back to the mountain. In addition, pass down the order to arrange a banquet. This old man wants to banquet. Invite Fairy Xinglin, family head." That nascent soul cultivator hurriedly flew over and whispered, "Could it be that you drank too much? Please wake up." This disciple heard that our one clan has a distinguished guest. Fourth ancestor has just used the one clan's highest standard neon sky welcome. What? Neon sky welcome? Although Wen Qingfan was a little drunk, he was a Mahayana cultivator after all. He instantly sobered up and exclaimed, "What's wrong with fourth ancestor? What distinguished guest has come to our one clan? He actually dares to use the neon sky welcome?" This disciple isn't too sure. The nascent soul cultivator smiled apologetically. This disciple only knows that the sect has recently been gathering suitable heirs to prepare for a rare disciple selection. Selection my ass. Wen Qingfan was enraged when he heard this. If we can't find any disciples and don't have suitable cultivation techniques, what's the point of cultivating? A late golden core stage disciple beside him mustered up his courage and whispered, "Family head, this disciple has been thinking for a long time. In this entire Yilin continent, I'm afraid that only the Alliance Master of the Dao Alliance would be worthy of this neon sky welcome. Could it be family head? Then that's even more ridiculous." Wen Qingfan was even angrier when he heard this. He raised his hand and pointed at the crowd with his folding fan. "If anyone dares to mention the Dao Alliance to me in the future, I'll wring your heads off." However, before Wen Qingfan could finish speaking, a powerful sense of the soul appeared out of nowhere. It swept past Wen Qingfan and the disciples of the one family, locking onto them immediately. At the same time, a voice that Wen Qingfan was familiar with rang out in the sky. Wen Qingfan, what's wrong with the Dao Alliance? Are you in the right for not attending the Alliance meeting on time? Wen Qingfan turned pale with fright. He looked incredulously at the huge transmission channel that appeared in the sky and cried out, Vice Alliance Master, why are you here? You wouldn't use the land transmission bridge for this junior to come to Coiling Dragon Mountain to denounce me, right? Under Wen Qingfan's gaze, the void channel rapidly shrank and turned into the shape of a bridge. The void at the end of the bridge was extremely distorted, and a small door gradually took shape. Following Wen Qingfan's voice, Ji Yan, Old Man Gu Qiong, and the others stepped out of the door. When the last fairy Mo Yun flew out, the entire door let out a thunderous roar and slowly collapsed. A thunderous roar echoed in the depths of the collapsed space. Is the puny Wen clan worth this old man's anger? Ji Yan landed in front of Wen Qingfan and looked disdainfully at him. He then looked at the woman who lowered her head and didn't dare to look up. He said coldly, I can expel your Wen clan from the Dao Alliance with a single word. Why would I have to chase you all the way to Coiling Dragon Mountain to denounce you? Old man Gu Qiong didn't have the patience and asked directly, Wen Qingfan, is Zhang Xiaohua on Coiling Dragon Mountain? Who is Zhang Xiaohua? Wen Qingfan didn't dare to look into Ji Yan's eyes. He thought for a moment and hurriedly answered old man Gu Qiong's question. Damn it! Old man Yi cursed. Wen Qingfan, didn't you receive the Dao Alliance's order? That? Wen Qingfan stammered, I didn't make it to the Alliance meeting. I heard. I was expelled by the Dao Alliance, so I didn't rush back. I visited a few good friends and I just rushed back to Coiling Dragon Mountain. Who's in charge of the Wen clan now? Old man Yi asked again. Fourth ancestor Wen Zhou. Wen Qingfan seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly answered, however, I heard from the disciples that a distinguished guest just arrived. The fourth ancestor used the neon sky welcome guest that the Wen clan hasn't used for a long time. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it or tip it. Chapter 49:12. Haha, just as I thought. Ji Yan laughed heartily. It seems we came at the right time. We caught up with Zhang Xiaohua as soon as she arrived at Coiling Dragon Mountain. Wen Qingfan, send the order to seal off all teleportation formations in the Wen clan. No one is to activate them without my order. Yes. Wen Qingfan hurriedly replied, but then he whispered, Vice Alliance Leader, my sect token is, the Yi clan's patriarch scolded. Wen Qingfan, are you really drunk or just pretending? Are you the Wen clan's patriarch, or is the sect token the Wen clan's patriarch? There's a great merit in front of you. Once the teleportation formations are sealed, perhaps the Alliance Leader will be merciful and withdraw his order to expel the Wen clan from the Dao Alliance. Yes, I understand. Wen Qingfan was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly ordered, Wen Dai, send the order to seal off all teleportation formations. Without the Vice Alliance Leader's order, no one is to activate them. Otherwise they will be killed without mercy. How could that nascent soul cultivator, who had always been kind to DD, dare to say anything? He ordered a few disciples to seal off the teleportation formations and led the other disciples into the sky to send the message. Seeing the disciples leave, Wen Qingfan hurriedly waved his hand at the so-called apricot flower fairy, indicating that she should stay here. He then respectfully said to Ji Yan, Alliance Leader, Wen Zhou must have just invited fellow Taoist Zhang Xiaohua to the meeting hall. Why don't we teleport over? No hurry. Ji Yan nodded at Fairy Mo Yun, the Yi clan's patriarch, Wanderer Fu Bo, Yu Hongzi and the others. They all nodded and teleported to various places in Coiling Dragon Mountain. Ji Yan smiled and said, Since fellow Taoist Zhang has already arrived at Coiling Dragon Mountain, we naturally have to use a safe method to meet him. It won't be too late for us to meet him in the meeting hall after all the teleportation formations in your Wen clan are closed. Wen Qingfan had no idea what perfected Ji Yan was talking about, nor did he know who Zhang Xiaohua was. However, since fourth ancestor Wen Zhou treated him as an honored guest and the Dao Alliance master valued him so highly, how could he dare to say anything when 6 late-stage tribulation-passing cultivators came to stop him? He could only say embarrassedly, yes. Junior will follow Lord Alliance Master's orders. Come with me. Old man Gu Qiong said calmly, we'll talk as we fly. Yes, sir. Wen Qingfan smiled apologetically as he stood behind the 2 Alliance heads. After asking a few questions, Old man Gu Qiong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Qingfan, hurry up and send word to the leaders of the expedition to the Fengyan kingdom. Wen Zhen? When Qingfan was stunned. He's already back? Sigh, you muddle-headed patriarch. Old man Gu Qiong couldn't help but curse. When Old Monkey was still alive, your Wen clan was a prominent figure in the Violet Chen Immortal Alliance. Wasn't the alliance master of the Violet Chen Immortal Alliance the Old Monkey? But now, not only are you no longer the leader of the alliance, you've even been expelled from the Dao Alliance. If you've committed a serious offense, I'm willing to sacrifice my own reputation to speak up for you on account of the Old Monkey. But it's just a little late. How do you expect this old man to give up this face? Perfected Ji Yan knew that the Old Monkey Old Man Gu Qiong was referring to was Wen Ho, the former patriarch of the Wen clan. Back then, Wen Ho was an all-powerful figure in the Dao Alliance and was known as Lord Marquis. However, Old Man Gu Qiong and the other cultivators who were close to him called him Old Monkey. Perfected Ji Yan didn't know that Old Man Gu Qiong had such a close relationship with the former patriarch of the Wen clan. Upon hearing Old Man Gu Qiong mention Old Monkey, Wen Qingfan couldn't help but feel sour. He knelt down in the air and cowed out. Junior is unfilial and has made Senior worry. Junior. Get up. You don't have to do this. You're also a faction master. Old Man Gu Qiong hurriedly helped Wen Qingfan up as if he was looking at his own child. If you have any difficulties you can tell me or Senior Ji Yan. Actually. Wen Qingfan's face turned red. After a moment of hesitation he said in a low voice, Junior doesn't have any difficulties. It's just that Lord Marquis is too famous and I can't compare to him. I feel too much pressure. Ha. Old Man Gu Qiong looked at Perfected Ji Yan and both of them laughed. Wen Qingfan's thoughts were similar to the thoughts of many of their juniors. They were the supreme cultivators of the Dao Alliance, and their juniors couldn't surpass them no matter how hard they tried. Under such circumstances, their juniors might be dispirited or motivated, and Wen Qingfan obviously belonged to the former. You are you and Old Monkey is Old Monkey. You just have to be yourself. What others think has nothing to do with you. Perfected Ji Yan said. Wen Qingfan said respectfully, Junior sometimes thinks the same, but the spiritual energy in heaven and earth is changing, and the immortal cultivation sects are struggling to cope with it. Our immortal cultivation clans are having a hard time, and I don't think I can shoulder this burden. So you ran away from it? So you indulged in wine and women? Perfected Ji Yan scolded. Wen Qingfan's face turned red and he almost groaned. Junior won't dare to do it again? This is the worst era? Old Man Gu Qiong lamented as he looked at coiling Dragon Mountain in the distance. Under the sunlight, rays of golden light reflected from the palaces on coiling Dragon Mountain. At the same time, this is also the best era. In the future, you'll definitely be more famous than Old Monkey. Junior? Wen Qingfan was shocked and said anxiously, how can I compare to Lord Marquis? Take a look at this. Old Man Gu Qiong gave Wen Qingfan the Dao Alliance's alliance token, the Spirit Root Selection Method, and the Spirit Root Cultivation Method. Wen Qingfan glanced at it and his whole body trembled. He said in surprise, this? Senior Zhang is Zhang Xiaohua? That's right. She's Zhang Xiaohua whom your Wen clan met in the Fengyan kingdom. She's currently in your Wen clan's meeting hall. Perfected Ji Yan nodded. Think about it. If the Chanhe sect is the origin of the Spirit Root Selection Method, then isn't your Wen clan the origin of the Spirit Root Cultivation Method? Junior understands. Wen Qingfan replied excitedly as if he could already see the Wen clan's bright future. As for Xiaohua, he stepped into the teleportation array. Buzz. The movement inside the teleportation array was no different from what Xiaohua had expected. Moreover, it didn't last for long. In just a few breaths, Xiaohua felt a light flash in front of his eyes as he entered another space. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a tip, and... Chapter 49:13. Because they were teleported in Panlong Mountain, the distance was very short. Even Nuo Yeqing, who was in the foundation establishment stage, didn't feel any special discomfort. When Xiaohua stepped out of the teleportation channel, Nuo Yeqing was already standing firmly in the air with Lu Qingyu's help. However, when Xiaohua stood in the air and looked around, his expression immediately changed. The space was very large, probably hundreds of miles. In the distance, different lights flashed, and at the same time, there were different spiritual power fluctuations. Obviously, there were different restrictions. Looking at Xiaohua and the others, there were nearly 100,000 children sitting cross-legged. These children were like when Zhou said the youngest was 2 or 3 years old, and the oldest was only 14 or 15 years old. These children were divided into 49 areas. These areas looked a little messy, but in fact they were orderly. In the middle of the areas, there were some disciples of the Wen family. These disciples were mostly in the foundation establishment stage. Different from the children, these disciples didn't sit cross-legged, but stood in various places. But strangely, these disciples stood like clay sculptures, motionless, and even a few of them seemed to be walking. Looking at the surroundings, although there were many flashes of light that illuminated the space, after the flashes of light, faint crimson blood threads seeped out like mercury flowing down the ground. In particular, under the children there were other areas. The dense blood seals, which ordinary cultivators couldn't detect at all, were clearly seen in Xiaohua's eyes. Xiaohua's expression changed greatly. Without any hesitation, he waved his hand and took out the Kunlun mirror. He hurriedly shouted, "Nuo Yeqing. Listen to my command, don't resist, we've been ambushed." After that, Xiaohua's mind was like the wind. He immediately swept towards Lu Qingyu, Yuehua, and Nuo Yeqing, wanting to put the three of them into the space. Unfortunately, whether it was Nuo Yeqing, Lu Qingyu, or Yuehua, they just landed in the space. They just saw the situation of the space and didn't find anything strange. Although Xiaohua had ordered, they didn't know how to cooperate. Xiaohua's mind swept over them, but he couldn't put them into the space. Ha ha. In the distance, when Zhou's voice sounded like an owl, "After entering the blood formation you still want to get out alive? Zhang Xiaohua, you're too naive." How could Xiaohua be long-winded with Wen Zhou? His divine thought turned into a hammer. Even Lu Qingyu and Yuehua, who were as strong as the gold core stage, couldn't withstand it and fainted. After putting Lu Qingyu and the others into the space, Xiao hurriedly swept his mind, wanting to put the children and the Wen family disciples in the formation. However, Lu Qingyu and the others had just disappeared from the space. The shadows rushed, not only drowning nearly 100,000 children and disciples, but also rushed towards Xiaohua like a poisonous pythons. Puff 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 puff. However, the moment the demonic rune shadows submerged the children's bodies, the bodies of the nearly 100,000 children and hundreds of Wen family disciples immediately burst like bubbles. Blood mixed with flesh and blood filled the space like a tidal wave. But is blood's blood is? But was, as blood's tia, s's. Boom boom boom. As the demonic patterns rushed out, the various restrictions in the space also let out explosive sounds. After the fluctuations of the Dao Sect Dharma array were annihilated, hundreds of demonic arrays were activated. Ah! Countless cries came from all over the space. Within the blood array and the demonic array, the cries of children and the screams of the Wen family disciples could be heard one after another. Every soul was struggling in the waves of blood. What was special was that near these souls, thumb-sized blood droplets had already condensed and were spinning around. Looking at the other demonic arrays, there were also many blood droplets moving restlessly. Damn it! Xiaohua was unable to restrain his anger. His eyes were red as he looked into the distance. Nearly 100,000 children had been killed in front of him. This was something that had never happened before. Although Xiaohua understood in his heart that these children had probably died before he entered the space. What's going on? When Zhou saw the soaring demonic patterns wreaking havoc in the space, but when the countless demonic pattern phantoms collided with Xiaohua's body, he didn't see any special changes in Xiaohua's body, nor did he see any blood shadow flying out, let alone his body collapsing. Wen Zhou couldn't help but be startled. However, Wen Zhou wasn't particularly surprised. His figure swayed, and it was as if he didn't exist in the sky full of blood shadows. Then he opened his mouth. Whoa! A column of blood light spurted out, and it turned into hundreds of tentacles that fell in all directions. Where the tentacles landed, beads of blood began to rapidly gather, and the howling souls were gradually torn apart. Xiaohua had already released his divine sense, and when he had collected the moonlight, he had wanted to pull a few Fortune Gate disciples out. However, seeing how powerful the spatial devil formation was, and when Zhen was a grand ascension stage cultivator, Xiaohua was afraid that the Fortune Gate disciples would be harmed, which was why he had hesitated. Now that he saw Wen Zhou activating the spatial devil formation, he hurriedly circulated his magic power to stop him. Unfortunately, the spatial devil formation had already isolated Xiaohua's scattered nascent soul and Dao seed, so he couldn't activate it. What could he do now? Seeing the souls disappearing one after another, Xiaohua didn't dare to overthink. He quickly released his netherworld origin force, and his divine sense swept through the spatial devil formation like a hurricane. Wenzhou. Xiaohua pretended to move his body and shouted in exasperation, "I have no enmity with you. It doesn't matter if you are the one family's old ancestor or a demon, it has nothing to do with me. Moreover, your bullshit spatial devil formation seems to have taken shape, it doesn't matter whether I'm here or not. Why do you have to drag me to my death?" Wenzhou, like Xiaohua, was fully focused on activating the spatial devil formation, so he ignored Xiaohua. A moment later, dozens of large and small vortexes appeared in the spatial devil formation. These vortexes emitted whimpering sounds, and the suction force gradually increased, enveloping the entire spatial devil formation. Only then did Xiaohua's figure stop moving. He coldly looked at Xiaohua and said, "Since you know that I'm a devil, you should know that, whether it's the Tao Alliance or the Heaven Alliance, they're all food in my devil race's eyes. Tell me who would like powerful food." With the changes in heaven and earth's spiritual energy, the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance's high-level cultivators are dying, and the low-level cultivators are unable to cultivate. This Yilin mainland will soon become a paradise for my devil race. And now you, a little fellow who came out of nowhere, has appeared. You actually brought some spirit root technique, and can even allow humans with spirit roots to cultivate. If I don't kill you, who else can I kill? Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and thank you for all forms of support. Thank you for the support represented by Benbin, Cabbage, Daoist Xiao, Chuantong, Lonesome Flourishing Fleeting, and Chuanchuan's Dad. Chapter 49-14. Xiaohua quietly collected the soul, but his mouth cursed again. "So you had already arranged all of this when you received Wenzhen's message?" "That's right." Wenzhou's eyes were already blood red, and his face was covered with veins. The veins were similar to demonic patterns, and they spread all over his body. "I've been scheming to set up this blood formation, but I didn't have any excuse. At this time the Tao Alliance meeting was held, and the One Clan's patriarch left. I naturally came out of seclusion and took over the clan's power. But that's not enough. I still have to successfully refine the most important million-spirit blood pearl without leaving a trace. Now that your spiritual root selection method has appeared, it's really laughable. Look at how overjoyed the One Clan's disciples were. How could they know that they had personally sent their own juniors to their deaths? Damn it." Xiaohua cursed in his heart, but he didn't dare to stop. He wanted to save more human wandering souls before the blood formation was completed. "Zhang Xiaohua, do you know?" Wenzhou didn't seem to notice the disappearance of the soul and only sneered, "I've been waiting for you until my heart ached. If you don't come, how can I complete my plan? Are you so sincere in killing me?" Xiaohua spoke to Wenzhou while looking around as if looking for a flaw in the demonic formation. Wenzhou laughed, "You don't have to look. When you came in, I already sealed the space formation. With your strength, you can't go out." "Alright, since I'm going to die, I'll die knowing." Xiaohua withdrew his gaze and looked at Wenzhou, saying, "Isn't it just the spiritual root selection method? You want to kill I with your own hands so much?" "That's not it." The blood veins around Wenzhou continued to spread, and he said, "Before I see the heavenly plum token and the golden core cultivation method, it doesn't matter whether I kill you or not. But I need you to come because I want to activate the blood formation. Without any pretense, wouldn't the One Clan be aware of this blood formation? If you don't come, how can I scatter the blood fiend?" When Xiaohua heard this, he immediately thought of the scarlet light in the sky. However, he still asked curiously, "What's the heavenly plum token? Why did you have to destroy it?" "Ah." Wenzhou burst into laughter, and a blood mist suddenly appeared around him. The blood tattoos that had covered his entire body turned into devil tattoos, and numerous thumb-sized devil heads poked their heads out of the devil tattoos, squeaking and squeaking. The aura of an early Grand Ascension stage cultivator suddenly surged into the Devil Emperor stage, and was comparable to a peak 8th grade Origin Energy Realm cultivator. Wenzhou even opened his bloody mouth and shouted, "Zhang Xiaohua, don't think this old man doesn't know what you're trying to do. You're far too bold. Not only did you not try to escape from this old man's demonic array space, you even tried to secretly collect wandering souls. Could it be that you really have 3 heads and 6 arms? However, even if you have 3 heads and 6 arms, this old man will still kill you. Damn it." Xiaohua cursed when he heard that Wenzhou had exposed his intentions. He circulated his magic power and fled far away. At the same time, he controlled the netherworld origin force to collect the last of the wandering souls into the inside of the space. Seeing that Xiaohua's escape technique was similar to his cultivation realm, Wen Zhou's figure blurred, appearing behind Xiaohua in the blink of an eye. His hand grabbed out, and layers of devil flames mixed with strands of blood-red light condensed into a devil's palm, slamming down on Xiaohua. The devil's palm not only sealed the space several hundred zhang around Xiaohua, but hundreds of little devils also poked their heads out from the devil's palm, their mouths wide open as they pounced on Xiaohua. Wen Zhou's strength had risen sharply, reaching the peak of the 8th level of origin energy. Therefore, Xiaohua didn't dare to drag out the Fortune Gate's disciples. Moreover, Xiaohua's current strength was far inferior to Wen Zhou's. As the devil's palm fell, Xiaohua's flying figure slowed down as if he had fallen into a swamp. However, Xiaohua wasn't nervous at all. Sensing that the devil's palm was only a few feet away from him, he abruptly turned around and laughed. "This old man doesn't have 3 heads and 6 arms, but this old man won't disappoint you." With that said, his divine sense condensed into a hammer, smashing towards the devil's palm with more power than a magic treasure. Boom. A loud explosion sounded. Although the devil's palm didn't shatter, a several zhang wide hole appeared at the center of the devil's palm. Moreover, wherever Xiaohua's divine sense passed, the blood-red waves were scattered, and even rushed towards Wen Zhou's body. How is this possible? A human's divine sense is actually so powerful? Wen Zhou was astounded. A human's divine sense had always been devoured by the devil's blood shadows, and he had never seen a divine sense that could destroy the devil flames. While he was shocked, he didn't dare to be careless. His other hand clenched into a fist and a blood-red bone spear appeared. He swung the bone spear with all his might, aiming at Xiaohua's divine sense. The bone spear pierced through the air, and the sound of water splashing could be heard. Xiaohua was startled and hurriedly dispersed his divine sense, but he didn't retreat. Instead, he turned into a streak of light, passing through the devil's palm and arriving in front of Wen Zhou. Wen Zhou was also quite capable. Seeing the strange disappearance of Xiaohua's divine sense, he already knew that Xiaohua wasn't as simple as he thought. The devil's palm swung, and the blood-red bone spear once again slashed across the blood-red sea, piercing towards Xiaohua. Humph, a puny devil emperor dares to be arrogant in front of this old man. Xiaohua wasn't nervous in the slightest when he saw the bone spear flying towards him. He sneered coldly and took out an item from his space. The moment this item appeared, the devil wind immediately pierced the bones, and the blood shadows nearby all condensed towards this item. King. A light sound rang out and the bone spear was blocked by this item. In the midst of the sound of metal clashing, the bone spear immediately turned into powder. Not only that, after the bone spear, Wen Zhou's devil arm was also pierced by this item. A burst of sizzling sounds, and the heart-wrenching cries of the devil on Wen Zhou's devil arm resounded in the nearby space. "Qiu Yinlu?" Wen Zhou was shocked and shouted, You know Ji Peng? You're the Northern Jian Devil Domain's devil commander? Damn it." Wen Zhou screamed, and without any hesitation, his devil body quickly retreated. The devil arm that was pierced by the Qiu Yinlu was cut off from the root, and he abandoned it. However, as the devil arm was cut off, and as the devil chi from the Qiu Yinlu forced into Wen Zhou's devil body, the originally complete devil marks were broken inch by inch. Wen Zhou's devil body rapidly shrank, and the devil chi also faded away. In just a moment he was actually only at the 6th stage of the Devil King realm. So you're just a thing that looks strong on the outside but is actually weak on the inside. Xiaohua held the Qiu Yinlu in his hand and sneered, "Today you'll pay with your life." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward. And Chapter 49:15. Hehe, of course it's easy to take this old man's life. Wen Zhou panicked at first, but then he suddenly sneered, "This old man never planned to leave alive. You should be worried about how you're going to escape." With that, Wen Zhou's devil body suddenly exploded. Even Wen Zhou's soul didn't manage to escape as it instantly turned into fragments and fell into the space. Woo-woo. A strange scene occurred again. Whether it was Wen Zhou's soul fragments or the devil body's blood, just as they fell into the air, they immediately turned into hundreds of black shadows that rushed towards the surroundings of the devil formation space and disappeared. The originally monstrous blood vortexes suddenly collided with each other. In just a few breaths, all the vortexes merged into two. One was like an inverted funnel that buckled on top of the space. The huge vortex produced a suction force that wanted to pull Xiaohua up into the sky. The other vortex was similar to the one above the space, but it completely covered the bottom of the space. Similarly, A huge force was produced that wanted to pull Xiaohua down into the abyss. Under the two loopholes, the forces were balanced and Xiaohua actually stood steadily in the air. What is this damned Wenzhou planning? Xiaohua didn't believe that this was the true face of the devil formation space. He hurriedly urged his body to fly towards the edge of the devil formation. However, this devil formation space was so huge that Xiaohua's cultivation hadn't recovered yet, so he actually flew very slowly. At this moment, the blood droplets that had almost disappeared earlier suddenly appeared from the two vortexes. A total of 177,777 blood pearls enveloped the space of the demonic array, and a kind of extremely cold and evil blood energy instantly imprisoned Xiaohua. Damn it! This is the sole power of 170,000 Wen clan disciples. Xiaohua cursed. I don't know how Wenzhou collected it, but it seems this Wen clan descendant is definitely not ordinary. This Wen clan disciple's bloodline power is actually so strong. Xiaohua tried his best to move his body towards the sky, wanting to avoid this peerless blood energy. Boom. Xiaohua only flew a few dozen feet when the entire devil formation space shook. 170,000 blood droplets rapidly condensed towards the center. At the same time, outside the blood droplets, the two vortexes in the devil formation space rapidly expanded. Outside the space, there was actually the sound of mountains collapsing and the earth cracking. What kind of demonic array is this? Xiaohua was a little embarrassed and angry. No matter what, one of his avatars was still a demon venerable. Furthermore, it was a condensed body of a demon spirit from a demon array. However, no matter how he looked at it, the demon array was unfamiliar to him. It was as if he had never seen it before. That's not right. How can there be a Sumeru fruit effect in the demon race? Xiaohua suddenly had a kind of realization, but before he could make up his mind to take out the devil blade murder, rumble? An almost incomparably huge force was born from his body. Through the blood shadow, Xiaohua already understood that the vortex that was originally like a funnel suddenly turned upside down. The entire vortex surged upwards, and the suction force suddenly turned into a pushing force, combining with the suction force of the inverted funnel from before, simultaneously pushing the blood bead and Xiaohua into the tip of the vortex. We've been tricked. Xiaohua suddenly came to a realization. The true goal of this demon clan was the sky, not the ground. He had outsmarted himself. Under the huge force, Xiaohua's figure rushed into the tip of the vortex with the blood beads around him. After reaching the tip of the vortex, the blood beads that were several acres in size condensed into the size of a fist. When the blood beads crashed into the top of the vortex, a layer of strange demon runes appeared at the tip, and as soon as the blood beads entered, they instantly disappeared. Looking at the whirlpool below, it crashed into the whirlpool above like a tsunami. The blood waves collided, and the force that could tear a mountain apart immediately burst towards the surroundings of the demonic array. The demonic array instantly collapsed, and there was another layer of Tao array outside the demonic array. This array had already been destroyed when the demonic array was expanding. As for outside the Tao sect array, it was naturally the fourth mountain range of Coiling Dragon Mountain. The blood waves of the demon array were like the blood of a coiling dragon seeping out of the mountain range. The huge force was like a demon hand striking out from the depths of the earth, splitting Coiling Dragon Mountain in half. Of course, Wen Qingfan would never have dreamed that such a huge change would occur in the fourth mountain range of Coiling Dragon Mountain. The fourth ancestor of the Wen clan, Wenzhou, was actually a demon. He happily called out to old man Guqiong, "Okay, I'll ask Wenzhen to come over now." "Okay." Old man Guqiong nodded slightly, but before he could finish speaking, he suddenly turned to look at Coiling Dragon Mountain in shock. Beside him, Ji Yan's expression also changed and he shouted, "Oh no! Hurry!" Old man Guqiong didn't hesitate at all. With a shout, his figure flickered and he immediately disappeared. Alliance Master. Wen Qingfan was surprised and was about to look at Ji Yan in confusion, but Ji Yan's figure was nowhere to be seen. That's strange. What's going on? Wen Qingfan was puzzled. Just as he was about to teleport over, boom boom boom, an earth-shattering sound came from the Panlong Mountain in the distance. Then the space within a few thousand miles of the Wen clan shook. Crimson demonic light rose from the center of Coiling Dragon Mountain in front of Wen Qingfan's eyes and then spread out in all directions. Along with the demonic light, Coiling Dragon Mountain began to collapse from the bottom, and the ground around it also began to collapse. Not only that, but the moment the demonic light appeared, a celestial phenomenon appeared in the sky. Huge rings of spatial faults piled up together, hanging down from the sky at an extremely fast speed. The black and white spatial faults looked like hanging tree rings. What's going on? Wen Qingfan was shocked and hurriedly used his spiritual power to teleport toward Coiling Dragon Mountain. However, he only managed to teleport a few dozen miles before he was squeezed out of the void. The space around Coiling Dragon Mountain was sealed, and he couldn't teleport. Damn it! Wen Qingfan cursed inwardly. He didn't dare to hesitate and used his escape technique to rush toward Coiling Dragon Mountain like a meteor. Jiyan Jinren and Old Man Gu Qiong were naturally one step ahead of Wen Qingfan, and they were already in front of the mountain. However, the powerful spatial imprisonment force prevented them from teleporting. Jiyan Jinren released his divine sense to check the situation and said with a gloomy face, "Senior, we've been planning for so long that we forgot about the demon race. Is Zhang Xiaohua a devil clan member? The devil chi within 500 miles of Coiling Dragon Mountain is very strong. I'm afraid 100,000 creatures have been sacrificed. How could Zhang Xiaohua have so much time?" Old Man Gu Qiong's expression changed slightly as he looked into the distance. Although his divine sense was blocked, he could see Fairy Mo Yun, the Yi family patriarch, and the others surrounding Coiling Dragon Mountain. He said, "They should be from the one family. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a tip, and..." Chapter 49:16. Boom, boom. At this moment, there was a loud explosion several times louder than the previous one. The peak of Coiling Dragon Mountain was lifted, and a crimson blood bead that was dozens of miles wide rushed into the sky. Blood spirit bead? Old Man Gu Qiong looked at it and exclaimed, "How can it be so big?" As soon as Old Man Gu Qiong finished speaking, the blood spirit bead shrank even more as it rushed into the sky. Umph! Old Man Gu Qiong snorted and grabbed at the air. His huge hand grew to the size of dozens of acres and rushed into the sky to grab the blood spirit bead. However, before Old Man Gu Qiong's hand could get close, the demonic blood sea under Coiling Dragon Mountain exploded. The demonic array above Coiling Dragon Mountain was originally imprisoned by the demonic array, and now that it was disrupted, the space overlapped and Old Man Gu Qiong's hand was torn apart by the power of space. "Stay here." Seeing that Old Man Gu Qiong's hand had failed to grab the blood spirit bead, Ji Yen spiritual master, Yi family patriarch, and the others roared. Several huge hands appeared from all directions and sealed the space above Coiling Dragon Mountain. However, they were too slow. When Old Man Gu Qiong waved his hand, the blood spirit bead had already shrunk to the size of a wicker basket and approached the spatial fault in the sky. When Old Man Gu Qiong's hand was torn apart, the blood spirit bead touched the spatial fault. In an instant, the blood spirit bead shrank to the size of a thumb and disappeared into the spatial fault. Then the spatial fault shrank rapidly and turned into a black and white line. The blood spirit bead spun in the black and white line for a moment before it disappeared. At the same time, the black and white line that pierced into the sky strangely disappeared. It was only now that the seals of several supreme cultivators arrived. What they had sealed were merely some void embers. Things were far from over. After the supreme cultivators sealed the sky, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Coiling Dragon Mountain collapsed one after another, and the land nearby also collapsed. The beautiful scenery was about to be destroyed. Forget about the Blood Fiend spiritual pearl for now. Old Man Gu Qiong made a decision after scanning the area with his divine sense. The demonic array on Coiling Dragon Mountain has collapsed, and it has triggered the power of the earth. This should be the demon race's backup plan. Once we control the demonic array, the power of the earth will disappear. All right. After receiving the order, Immortal Ji Yen raised his hand and slapped the top of his head. Boom. A clear light rushed out, and a seal engraved with the word Heaven and Earth rose into the sky. Immortal Ji Yen channeled his magic power, and the seal became larger than a mountain and pressed down on the eastern land. Watch this old man. The Yi clan's ancestor didn't dare to be negligent. He opened his mouth and a palm-sized jade rui flew out. Boom boom boom. As the Yi clan's ancestor urged his magic power, the jade rui transformed into the shape of an azure dragon and pounced towards the western land, similarly suppressing a part of the demonic array. When Zhou was only a Mahayana realm cultivator and had barely touched the demon emperor realm with the help of demonic patterns and demonic arrays. Under the full suppression of the two tribulation passing cultivators, the demon race was suppressed. The mountain stopped collapsing and the earth stopped collapsing. However, streams of water seeped out from the depths of the earth. Fortunately, when Zhou had to refine the Blood Fiend spiritual pearl with all his strength and didn't dare to waste a trace of blood mist. Therefore the water that flowed out was spring water. Although it wasn't very clear, it wouldn't destroy Coiling Dragon Mountain. Wanderer Fu Bo Yu Hongzi and Fairy Mo Yun had already summoned their natal spiritual treasures. Seeing that the demonic array was suppressed, they relaxed their vigilance. Fairy Mo Yun waved her sleeve and released a parrot. The parrot flapped its wings and flew into the void. A moment later, it appeared in front of the collapsed earth. The parrot opened its mouth and spat out a beam of orange light, which turned into a net and scattered in all directions. After 5 minutes, the orange light disappeared. The parrot squawked and flew back into the void, appearing in front of Fairy Mo Yun again. The parrot said a few words that sounded like a human and then returned to Fairy Mo Yun's sleeve. Fairy Mo Yun said, "Everyone, the demonic array under the ground has disappeared. However, there are no traces of demons or humans. There isn't even a trace of a soul." "Thank you, Fairy." Taoist Jian's face was filled with anger. He didn't take back the heaven and earth seal. Instead, he said to Yi family's ancestor, "Fellow Taoist, don't worry. We'll suppress this array first and talk about it after we figure out what happened." "No problem." Yi family's ancestor looked around and replied, "Fellow Taoists, don't let down your guard. Don't let the remaining demons slip away." At this moment, when Qing Fan flew over with an ashen face, he had to admit that the world's sorrow and joy were too unpredictable. Just a moment ago, he was still imagining the bright future of the One family. In just a moment, not only did the future turn into darkness, the One family's ancestral property was almost completely lost. If it weren't for Taoist Ji Yan and a few other supreme cultivators, Wen Qingfan wouldn't have the face to see his ancestors in the underworld even if he died. "Senior." Wen Qingfan's voice was a little hoarse as he asked anxiously, "What happened?" Taoist Ji Yan was also angry and cursed, "Damn it! Do you still have to ask me what happened to your Wen family?" Old man Gu Qiong said resentfully, "You're the Wen family's patriarch. We're guests from afar. You decide how to deal with this." Although Wen Qingfan was a little dispirited, he was still the patriarch of the Wen family. After being reprimanded by Ji Yan and old man Gu Qiong, he perked up and issued an order to the Wen family elders, Wen Qing and Wen Yushi, to lead the Wen family disciples to rescue the disciples who were in danger when Panlong Mountain collapsed. The Wen family's disciples had been frightened out of their wits by the anomaly on Coiling Dragon Mountain. Some fled while others wandered around. Now that their patriarch had returned, they felt reassured and began to work. When the casualties became clearer, Wen Qingfan ordered Wen Zhuoqi to calm the disciples down. He also asked the steward and the deacon to discuss other emergency matters in the Wen family. When it was dark, Wen Qingfan summoned Wen Zhen and asked him about the adventure and the encounter with Zhang Xiaohua. Then he praised Wen Zhen and called Wen Qing, Wen Yushi, and Wen Zhuoqi over to ask about everything that happened after he left the Wen family and after Zhang Xiaohua came to the conference hall. Naturally, the three elders reported everything in detail. They even told him about the heavenly plum token. The demonic array was completely suppressed. After the Wen family's disciples searched, the Yi family's patriarch and Fairy Mo Yun searched again. After making sure that they didn't miss anything, they put away their spiritual treasures and stood in the air, quietly watching Wen Qingfan deal with all the affairs. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it and give it a tip. Chapter 49:17. The Wen clan disciples heard what Wen Zhen and the three elders said, but the more they listened, the more confused they became. They really didn't understand what had happened on Coiling Dragon Mountain. "Seniors." Wen Qingfan pondered for a moment and reported, "I have some speculations. If possible, please serve me tea in the guest hall. I'll report everything to you." "No need." Old man Gu Qiong waved his hand and said, "Since the Wen clan has undergone a drastic change, we won't nag you anymore. You can speak now, there aren't any outsiders here." "Yes." Wen Qingfan replied. After organizing his thoughts, he said, "Based on what I know, there are only two speculations." "There are actually two? Tell me." Ji Yan smiled and took the opportunity to ask. "First, Zhang Xiaohua is a demon." Wen Qingfan said decisively, "Her so-called spirit root selection method and spirit root cultivation method are both flawed cultivation methods. If our Tao Alliance cultivators cultivate them, it will be difficult for them to reach the greater mastery stage. There might even be a disaster. Although we can't see any flaws, we can't guard against the demon's cultivation method. When we encounter the demon, our human race will be captured. As for why Zhang Xiaohua came to our Wen clan, she met up with Wen Zhou, whose body was possessed by the demon. Then Zhang Xiaohua perished together with Wen Zhou and turned into a spirit blood pearl? Yi clan's patriarch asked sarcastically before Wen Qingfan could finish. Wen Qingfan shrugged and said seriously, as for why Zhang Xiaohua came to Coiling Dragon Mountain to cooperate with Wen Zhou, this junior doesn't know. Didn't senior say earlier that there was a spirit blood pearl? With the blood fiend spirit pearl, they must have used it to escape to the devil realm. Old man Gu Qiong seemed to want to give Wen Qingfan some pointers and said, the spirit blood pearl is commonly known as the myriad spirit pearl. However, based on what I know, the real spirit blood pearl is not the ordinary myriad spirit pearl. Generally speaking, the myriad spirit pearl was made from the blood spirits of the human race. However, the blood evil spirit pearl was not only made from the blood spirits of the human race, but also from the blood spirits of the devil race, the spirit race and other races. In other words, since the demonic array has condensed into a blood fiend spirit pearl, then within the demonic array, whether it's the human race, the devil race or even the demonic beasts, none will survive. Furthermore, this old man and fairy Mo Yun have already investigated carefully. The demonic formation has already dissipated, and there are no traces of humans or demons nearby. Yi clan's ancestor continued. Jiyan Jinren said faintly, don't worry. Even if Zhang Xiaohua is a demon, he won't be able to escape with the help of this pearl. No matter if it was the myriad spirit pearl or the blood evil spirit pearl, only blood spirits and souls could exist in it. Humans and demons could not survive in it. So, Zhang Xiaohua would not foolishly borrow the demonic blood pearl to escape. Secondly, Zhang Xiaohua is not a demon. When Qingfan said, then it's very interesting that Wen Zhou killed Zhang Xiaohua. In other words, Zhang Xiaohua's luck is extremely bad. I know the effect of the neon sky welcoming the guest. There was no red light around Coiling Dragon Mountain, so that light must have been activated by the demonic array. Wen Zhou waited for Zhang Xiaohua to come here to deceive others. Well, your analysis is right. That's the reason. Elder Gu Qiong nodded with a smile. Anything else? And when Qingfan glanced at Elder Gu Qiong with a bitter expression and said, since Zhang Xiaohua is a human, no matter whether he is a cultivator of the Heaven Alliance or the Tao Alliance, he has mastered the secret method to modify the cultivation methods of the Tao Alliance. He has become the hope of the Tao Alliance. In order to kill the Tao Alliance, Wen Zhou lured Zhang Xiaohua and the others into the demonic array and killed them. Jiyan Jinren was shocked and hurriedly asked, what do you mean, Wen Qingfan? Didn't Wen Zhou kill Zhang Xiaohua for the Heavenly Plum Token? Wen Qingfan explained, the Heavenly Plum Token is important, but it's only important to the Wen family. It's not important to the entire Tao Alliance. I've read the Alliance Master's Jade Slip and know that he has obtained the cultivation methods modified by Zhang Xiaohua. However, most of them are for qi refinement, and only one is for foundation establishment. I heard from Wen Qing that Zhang Xiaohua has finished modifying the foundation establishment cultivation method and is now modifying the golden core cultivation method. However, these cultivation methods. Damn it. Jiyan Jinren was furious. Wen Zhou must have taken these cultivation method jade slips and the heavenly plum token and destroyed them in the demonic array. Moreover, he killed fellow Taoist Jiang, who knows how to modify the cultivation methods. That's right. Wen Qingfan said helplessly, I gave the sect token to Wen Zhou. He has the authority to deal with any affairs in the sect. When was Wen Zhou possessed by the demon clan? Don't tell me you don't know anything about it? Elder Gu Qiong asked harshly. Wen Qingfan trembled, but he answered honestly, I really don't know. Didn't you leave any jade slips behind? The Yi family's patriarch looked at Wen Qing and the other elders and asked unwillingly. Wen Qing smiled wryly. Senior, we were overjoyed when we saw the heavenly plum token. Then, we remembered that Senior Zhang had arrived at Coiling Dragon Mountain and given the cultivation method jade slips to the fourth ancestor. We would see them sooner or later, that? At this moment, Wen Zhen, who couldn't get close due to his shallow cultivation, raised his hand and timidly shouted, Seniors, Junior has some copies of jade slips. Swoosh? Before Wen Zhen could finish, Jiyan Jinren teleported to his side and raised his hand. Give them to me. Yes. Wen Zhen agreed, but he didn't take them out. He only looked at Wen Qingfan. Don't worry. Elder Gu Qiong said with a smile. If this cultivation method is useful, the Tao Alliance will let your family head rejoin the Tao Alliance and reward your Wen family generously. Give it to Senior Jiyan. Wen Qingfan hurriedly urged Wen Zhen. Ji Jinren took the jade slips from Wen Zhen, but he didn't read them immediately. Instead, he copied them and gave them to Elder Gu Qiong and the others. Then he released his divine telekinesis to read them. Ji Jinren was so happy that he couldn't help but howl at the sky. His howl shattered the dark clouds in the night sky, and moonlight poured down like water. Damn it! Ji Jinren scolded jokingly. These are all the Qi refinement and foundation establishment cultivation methods, as well as a few golden core cultivation methods. It seems to be more complete than what Wen Qingfan said. Why did you copy them secretly? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or give it a tip. Chapter 49:18. To tell you the truth, after Senior Zhang gave this cultivation technique to the family head, I realized it would be very difficult for me to get it again. Wen Zhen explained embarrassedly, so, this junior secretly made a copy of the cultivation technique while discussing it with Senior Zhang. Senior Zhang is a very nice person and he knows this junior's thoughts. Sometimes he doesn't need this junior to make a copy, and he gives this junior 2 copies. Alas, the ancients are right. Only when you lose something do you realize how precious it is. Old man Gu Qiong sighed and said, previously, we were discussing fellow Zhang Xiaohua's background. Now it seems that no matter whether he was from the Tao Alliance, the Heaven Alliance, or the Lost Land, he is still a cultivator of our Tao sect. As long as he can help us modify our cultivation techniques and allow our Tao sect to survive and develop under the change of heaven and earth spirit Qi, he will be our Tao sect's savior. Unfortunately, fellow Taoist Zhang has fallen. Taoist Ji Yen also sighed, but he still raised the jade slip in his hand and said, fortunately he left behind some cultivation techniques before he died. Not only can we let our juniors practice these cultivation techniques, but we can also use them as a blueprint to understand his method of modifying cultivation techniques and modify more cultivation techniques. Taoist Ji Yen looked at Wen Qingfan and said, of course these cultivation technique jade slips were obtained from the Wen family by the Tao Alliance. I'll issue an Alliance Master token to let the Wen family make amends for their mistakes and reward them generously. Thank you for your help, seniors. Wen Qingfan hurriedly bowed. Get up. Old man Gu Qiong helped Wen Qingfan up and said with a smile, Qingfan, from the way you handled the sex affairs, I can see that you are not incompetent. In fact, you are very capable and can be considered a competent family head. The old monkey did nothing wrong by handing the Wen family to you. However, you are still not confident. Confidence is the foundation of everything. Only with confidence can you do things well. Only with confidence can you be a good family head. Perhaps you don't know this, but the old monkey once told me about you and the origin of your name. The word, ordinary, is because he knows that you are a little introverted. Compared to those who show off their abilities, you are too ordinary. However, he specially asked your father to add the word, Qing, to your name. As long as you take on any ordinary task, you will succeed. When Qingfan didn't expect his name to have such a history, he couldn't help but burst into tears. How was he a Mahayana cultivator? Alright, it's time for me to leave. Get the Wen family disciples to activate the teleportation array. Old man Gu Qiong helped Wen Qingfan up with a smile and said, the Wen clan has many things to do now. Moreover, you've made a great contribution, so you have to deal with it well. Don't disappoint me. However, old man Gu Qiong felt that his words were inappropriate and he waved his hand. My thoughts have nothing to do with you. If you have any difficulties, feel free to look for me. Yes, this junior understands. When Qingfan shed tears of gratitude and was about to bow again when old man Gu Qiong's figure flickered and disappeared. Ji Yen and the others had already teleported away to follow old man Gu Qiong. Farewell, seniors. When Qingfan didn't dare to be rude and hurriedly issued the sect master's order to activate the teleportation array. Teleportation consumed one's lifespan, so old man Gu Qiong and the others had only flown for a few hundred kilometers before they reappeared. When Ji Yen was looking for a teleportation array, the Yi family's patriarch sighed and said, Fellow Taoist Ji Yen, do you think fellow Taoist Zhang died in the demonic array? Ji Yen naturally understood the Yi family's patriarch's reluctance and asked in return, if it were fellow Taoist Yi, how confident would he have been in escaping? Naturally, I have a 60% chance of escaping. Yi clan's elder replied without any hesitation. But in reality? Perfected Ji Yen raised his hand and pointed in a direction. He flew slowly and asked, did you see the corpses of Zhang Xiaohua, O Yuehua of the Chanhe sect, Lu Qingyu, and Nuo Yeqing in the ruins of the demon array? No. The Yi family's patriarch replied. Fairy Mo Yun also said, "That's right." Although fellow Taoist Jiang is a peerless scholar, he broke into this realm and lost all his magic power. He wanted to rely on Yuehua and Lu Qingyu, two golden core cultivators, to protect him. How could he have escaped from the demonic array? Yijin said 60%, but that was an estimate when he faced the demonic array directly. Old man Gu Qiong said, "I heard from the Wen family's elders that even they couldn't tell that Wen Zhou was a demon. How could fellow Taoist Jiang have known?" Caught off guard, even with Yijin's ability, he only had a 40% chance. Moreover, didn't Ji Yin say at the Alliance conference that more than 2 million people had died? Nearly 2 million disciples from the various clans of our Dao Alliance have already been killed. If my guess is correct, the Wen clan should be one of those clans as well. Not a single one of those clans' disciples managed to escape alive. I'm afraid that fellow Taoist Jiang is most likely doomed as well. Wanderer Fu Bo, who had been silent all this time, said, "I don't want to believe that Zhang Xiaohua has died, but it's the truth. It's useless for us to say more." Yu Hongzi also echoed, "That's right. Fellow Taoist Jiang has died, so it's up to us now. There are countless capable people in the Dao Alliance. Since we have the method to select spiritual roots and cultivate low-grade spiritual roots, I'm sure it won't be long before we have more cultivation techniques that can adapt to the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Yes, there's no need for the Alliance leader to search for fellow Taoist Jiang anymore." Ji Yin Jinren nodded and said, "Let's make this cultivation technique public and let them find a way to modify it. We'll continue to the Heaven Alliance's forbidden area. Also, we'll look around carefully to see if we can find any traces of the demon's attack." As they spoke, they arrived at the Wen family's teleportation array. After the Wen family's disciples activated the teleportation array, they entered the teleportation channel and headed to the Heaven Alliance as planned. Naturally, no human, demon, or spirit body could be stored in the spiritual blood pearl. However, Xiaohua's body was constructed by the laws of heaven and earth. How could it be an ordinary body? Just as the Dao Alliance believed that Xiaohua had perished, Xiaohua activated his fiend body to fight against the 177,777 souls within the baleful blood pearl, as well as that incomparably powerful teleportation energy. And just as the blood fiend spirit pearl rushed from the coiling Dragon Mountain's demonic array into the collapsed black and white silhouette, a power of teleportation that Xiaohua was familiar with came crashing down from above his head like a giant mountain, firmly pressing down on his body. This kind of enormous power far exceeded the power of ordinary teleportation. Although this power was not as vast as the power of the realm, it was still difficult for Xiaohua to resist. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank you, Cabbage. I'll update these few chapters for you. Chapter 49-19. And what was special was that under the power of transmission, the hundreds of thousands of blood beads began to strangely revolve within the space of the spirit blood bead. The power of hundreds of thousands of tiny soul beads gathered together, forming an unparalleled strength that Xiaohua couldn't match. It was doing its best to extract something from Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua felt that his bloodline, body, and even soul were showing signs of collapsing. He couldn't help but activate his demonic technique and reveal his demon god Dharma idol. But even so, the soul power didn't decrease much. Extremely large amounts of soul power entered Xiaohua's demonic body like invisible threads. Strange. Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled. I seem to have collected the souls of hundreds of thousands of Wen clan disciples. Why do these blood beads still have soul power? Could this be the reason why the demons wanted to take over Wen Zhou's body and borrow the bloodline of the Wen clan disciples? Thinking of the bloodline, Xiaohua was suddenly startled. After careful examination, he shouted in his heart, "Damn it! This isn't just pure soul power. And the soul power is just the surface. Under this power there's even more bloodline power mixed in. Damn it, there's definitely something wrong with the Wen clan. That Tianmei token must have an extraordinary background. But how can it be possible to trap me with the bloodline power of hundreds of thousands of ordinary cultivators?" Immediately, Xiaohua activated the demonic flames around him to contend with the bloodline power. It seemed that Xiaohua still underestimated the bloodline power of the Wen clan disciples. After holding on for less than an hour, not only did the power of teleportation not weaken, it actually strengthened. Under the power of teleportation, the bloodline power of the demonic blood beads became even more fierce, forcing Xiaohua's demonic body to collapse again. Damn it! Xiaohua secretly clenched his teeth. I haven't recovered my strength yet, so I don't dare to activate the demonic technique too much. But now that the blood beads are so powerful, I have to take the risk. Thinking of this, Xiaohua sneered. The demonic flames around his body soared into the sky, and the strands of blood-red light fell, forming thumb-sized vortexes. Within those vortexes, the sinister blood demons were rapidly growing larger. Xiaohua first refined the power of the blood bead to protect himself, but in the end, the transmission power showed no sign of weakening at all. After more than 10 days, Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He desperately urged the demonic power, shouting madly in his heart, "Damn it, this million spirits blood bead won't be transmitted to the demonic world, will it? It wasn't easy for me to get to the Yilin continent. If I were to break out again, how long would it take for me to come back? Big brother, where did so much blood spirit chi come from?" Just as Xiaohua was about to refine the million spirits blood pearl into his demonic body, Mo Zuansher's voice suddenly sounded. "Damn it." Hearing the voice of the demon Zun, Xiaohua's heart moved and he involuntarily cursed in a low voice. Since the Tao Master's shadow appeared and gifted Xiaohua with the Tao seed, Xiaohua's original body and all his doppelgangers started to become complete under the influence of the Tao seed's power of law. Although Xiaohua anxiously hoped that his doppelgangers could recover as soon as possible, the demon venerable was definitely not the first one he hoped for. No matter if it was Feng Wu or the Thunderbolt Immortal, these doppelgangers were all doppelgangers that Xiaohua had truly split from his primordial spirit. Even Huang Tong was also a doppelganger that Xiaohua had split from his primordial spirit and cultivated using the phoenix celestial body. Only this demon venerable was not Xiaohua's real primordial spirit. It was only refined by Xiaohua using the blood shadow technique. Moreover, the demon venerable's original body was the demon spirit of the demon array. Although the demon venerable and Xiaohua's minds were connected, Xiaohua always felt that there would be a day when the demon venerable could not control himself. At this time, Xiaohua's strength had not recovered, and the other doppelgangers had not awakened yet. However, the demon venerable had awakened first. This could not help but arouse Xiaohua's vigilance. Xiaohua sighed and replied, "I have fallen into the trap of a human clan cultivator who had been possessed by the demon clan." With that, Xiaohua told the whole story to the demon venerable in his heart. Hearing this, the demon venerable was furious and said anxiously, "Big brother, I have said earlier that you are too kind. Of course, I am not saying that being kind is wrong, but if you are so kind to everyone, who knows what other people are thinking? Moreover, you have just fallen into the trap, so you should have a way to leave the demon array. After all, refining the blood demon spiritual pearl requires the help of the right time, place and people. With the strength of that Wenzhou ***********, it is impossible for him to make it so seamless. If you did not care about those Wen clan disciples who were killed, you and I would definitely be able to escape." Speaking to hear, the demon venerable suddenly woke up and shouted, "That's not right, why can't I move? You followed I into the Yilin continent. Our bodies were destroyed by the power of the boundary between the two worlds, and now we are slowly recovering." Xiaohua replied indifferently. "Damn it." The demon venerable's curses were no different from Xiaohua's. "This kind of snail-like recovery, how long will it take for me to recover to my original state?" "This is nothing." Xiaohua replied, "When I just broke the boundary, you were just seeds. Now that you have recovered to the point of awakening, it is already not bad. Demon venerable, how do you feel now?" The demon venerable was silent for a while, then suddenly laughed wildly, "Haha, big brother, thank you so much." Hearing the demon venerable's sudden gratitude, and the big brother from the bottom of his heart, Xiaohua suddenly felt that he was too stingy. The demon venerable was somewhat annoying, but these actions were his nature as a demon. If the demon venerable's actions were similar to that of Nanwu Methreya, then would he still be the demon venerable? Moreover, in terms of strength, after returning from the upper realm, the demon venerable's strength was once at the forefront of all his doppelgangers, but he never showed this to his doppelgangers and always called them big brother. How was this still the demon venerable? Sometimes, when facing the disdain of celestial beings and Reverend Yun's displeasure, the demon venerable did not dare to show any dissatisfaction, and always had a smiling face. The demon venerable might not be able to defeat Reverend Yun, but of course, his strength was stronger than celestial beings. Of course, this did not exclude the possibility that the demon venerable was afraid of Xiaohua killing him, but according to Xiaohua's current thoughts, the demon venerable liked these doppelgangers who shared the same origin as him more than he feared him. Previously, when he was in the upper realm, he had a lot of misunderstandings about Buddha Methreya. Of course, it was because of the influence of the heavenly demon, but more importantly, it was because he did not trust himself. He had already misunderstood Buddha Maitreya, so why couldn't he give the demon venerable more trust? Xiaohua's mind was full of thoughts, but the demon venerable did not know. Xiaohua laughed again. Oh? What's wrong? What's there to thank? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, give a monthly vote, a recommendation vote, a collection, a tip, and thank all forms of support. Thank you, Cabbage. These few chapters have been updated for you. Chapter 49-20. Big Brother, before this I thought that my demon body was already rare in the heavens and earth. In this mortal world I'm afraid there's no better one. Demon Sovereign sure was pleasantly surprised. But now, I don't know how to describe this demon body. Alright, all the other big brothers. Are they all like this? And since you're like this, they probably won't be any worse than you. Xiaohua heard Demon Sovereign sure thinking about other clones and became even happier. He smiled and replied. Ah, that's good, that's good. Demon Sovereign sure laughed, but suddenly he was shocked again. He hurriedly said, Big Brother, what's going on? How did your demon blade murder get into my body? Not to mention Demon Sovereign sure being shocked, even Xiaohua was inexplicably shocked. Demon blade murder had merged with Xiaohua's left hand from the profound water palace and had always been a part of Xiaohua's body. But this time, the breaking of the world was more dangerous than any other time. Xiaohua's body was reconstructed, condensed with the laws of heaven and earth. Xiaohua didn't feel the existence of demon blade murder before, but Xiaohua always thought that it was because his body wasn't completely repaired. He didn't expect demon blade murder to merge with Demon Sovereign Shure's body of laws. However, in just a moment Xiaohua understood that although Demon Sovereign Shure, Sky Man, Thunder Immortal and himself had the same primordial spirit and the same laws of heaven and earth, the laws of heaven and earth were as vast as the sea. They each comprehended different laws and thus the laws of heaven and earth were different. Demon Sovereign Shure was from the demon race, and the laws he comprehended were the demonic side of heaven and earth. Demon blade murder was a killing and bloody demonic weapon. He didn't merge with Demon Sovereign Shure's body, but instead merged with Maitreya Buddha's body. What should I do? Big Brother. Demon Sovereign Shure was anxious. How can I return it to you? Hee, why should I return it? Xiaohua laughed. You are me, I am you. What's there to return? Hee, that's true. Big Brother, I was wrong. Demon Sovereign Shure laughed. Left and right, I'm also in Big Brother's body. Whenever Big Brother wants to use it, just pick it up. As he spoke, Demon Sovereign Shure's demonic sense swept around and shouted, Big Brother! How is this refining a blood spirit? If the other demons knew that this level of sacrificial refining was actually this little brother's big brother, then this little brother's face as a demon lord would be lost. Please wait for a moment. Let me show you what I can do. As he spoke, Demon Venerable Shure's primordial spirit actually wanted to see Xiaohua's corporeal body. A few moments ago Xiaohua absolutely would not have tolerated this. He would have even used a primordial spirit mystic technique to deal with Demon Lord Shure. But after thinking about it, Xiaohua felt different. He did not feel that Demon Lord Shure had any ill intentions. He only felt that Demon Lord Shure was like a little brother who wanted to show off his skills in front of his big brother. More importantly, he was showing off. Xiaohua smiled and retracted his consciousness, allowing Demon Venerable Shure to control his body. His consciousness entered the space, taking advantage of this gap to speed up the modification of his cultivation technique. The moment Demon Lord Shure took control of Xiaohua's body, boom boom boom. Like a volcano erupting, Xiaohua's body suddenly expanded by several times. The surface of his body was originally filled with demonic qi, but demonic flames rushed out like lava. Hundreds of demonic flames rampaged inside the blood fiend spirit bead. Whoa! Wherever the demonic flames passed, ghostly wails and howls could be heard. The power of the bloodline released by hundreds of thousands of blood beads was torn to pieces. Oh! Demon Lord Shure raised his head and roared. Opening his mouth, the shattered blood light was all sucked into his stomach. It had to be said that the same corporeal body, the same demonic technique, under the control of the human race's Xiaohua and under the control of Demon Lord Shure, was completely different. It's just a mere blood bead. Big Brother is too cautious. Demon Lord Shure sucked the power of the bloodline and actually burped. He grumbled in a low voice, since Benzin woke up first, it's Benzin's good fortune. If Benzin didn't help Big Brother when Celestial woke up, he would probably laugh at Benzin. After speaking, Demon Lord Shure's body trembled. Tens of thousands of blood-like tentacles appeared from the demonic qi. On each tentacle there was a blood demon head, and each blood demon head had the appearance of Demon Lord Shur. Jianghu. Tens of thousands of blood demons laughed wildly at the same time. Passing through the space, the blood beads that were spinning disorderly all around fell. Boom boom boom. The tentacles caught all the blood beads with lightning speed. The entire blood bead space violently trembled. The previously dense blood red that filled the space gradually faded. Another half a day passed. 90% of the one clan's blood essence was refined. The outside of the blood bead was no longer intertwined with black, white, and blood. It already showed a faint light. At this time, wung wung. Vibrating sounds came from outside the blood bead. Demon Lord Shur released his demonic consciousness. However, just as his demonic consciousness came out of the blood bead, an almost unparalleled tearing force appeared strangely and tore the demonic consciousness apart. Damn it! Demon Lord Shur cursed in a low voice. His head covered by the demonic helmet revealed a pair of blood-red eyes. When Demon Lord Shur saw the situation outside the blood bead, he couldn't help but be shocked. Other than the flashing blood-red demonic patterns, it was not an ordinary scene in the human world. It was an abyss. This abyss was very different from the usual abyss. There was no silence, no extreme darkness. Above the abyss there was a sun and a moon shining brightly. There were specks of stars and there were layers of heavens. However, all of these phenomena were not complete. It did not look like they were in the same space. The entire abyss was like a kaleidoscope. There were countless space fragments. Above each space fragment there was a sun, a moon, and a star. Below each sun, moon, and star was an abyss. And within these fragments, there was the power of space that ordinary cultivators could not resist. The power of space naturally intertwined, forming a space storm. Wherever the space storm passed, not only did it tear apart the demon sovereign Shur's demon consciousness, but it also stirred up the fragments in the abyss, causing more fragments to appear in a dazzling manner. The demonic blood spirit bead fell into the abyss, and the demonic patterns on the surface of the bead appeared like water. Where the power of space landed, the demonic patterns produced a blood-red color. Within the scarlet light, the blood bead rotated, and the power of space was removed. Seeing this, Demon Lord Shur did not dare to refine the blood essence in the blood bead. At this time, the bloodline power in the blood bead was already weak, and could not pose any threat to Demon Lord Shur. Strange. Demon Lord Shur could not release his demonic consciousness, but looking at the strange abyss, he was puzzled. What is this place? It looks like it is not the demonic world. That when Zhou risked his life to teleport the demonic blood spirit bead here, what is he trying to do? Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it a tip, and thank you for all of your support. Thank you to Blooming Blossoms Dying Blossoms for your tip. Chapter 49-21. However, after a moment, Demon Venerable Shur understood. Because although the Blood Fiend spiritual pearl was in the abyss, it seemed to be drifting disorderly with the spatial storm, but it was drifting in a direction, as if there was a suction force that surpassed space that was pulling the Blood Fiend spiritual pearl. Haha. The Demon Lord laughed. Looking at the bottom of the abyss, he laughed maniacally. Looks like this lord is an uninvited guest. This lord would like to see what these demon bastards want to do here. The place where the Blood Fiend spiritual pearl was drifting was an irregular spatial fragment. This spatial fragment looked no different from other spatial fragments. Its surface was uneven, and there were some strange sceneries coming from within. Moreover, when this fragment rotated with the spatial storm at the bottom of the abyss, there were also fluctuations coming from the edges of the fragment. However, occasionally, when the spatial fragment flipped, a layer of faint, almost invisible devil flame would spurt out from the point of contact between the two surfaces that seemed to have been cut by a knife. Within the demon flame, circles of black and white demon mark could be seen. The demon mark released a strange suction force that surpassed the spatial storm and landed on the demon mark on the surface of the Blood Fiend spiritual pearl. What's going on? A voice that was even softer than a mosquito's sounded from the demon flame. Not to mention that the entire abyss was shrouded in spatial storms. Even in the quiet night, if one did not pay attention, one would not be able to hear it. Within this irregular spatial fragment, a demon wearing a set of demon armor and with a body that was over 1,000 feet tall was looking at the pentagonal demon mark above his head. He was whispering anxiously. It was hard to tell what shape this demon had. It was neither human nor beast. There were all kinds of ferocious-looking demon heads on the demon armor. Only under the demon helmet, there was a blood-red hole that emitted cryptic demon language. We've been scheming for nearly 4,000 years and finally found 49 clans with bloodlines different from ordinary cultivators. Now we've gathered the blood essence of nearly 9 million human cultivators from 48 clans. We're only missing the last blood evil spirit pearl condensed by the 170,000 human cultivators from the one clan on Coiling Dragon Mountain. We can't let anything go wrong. An obscure voice came from afar. The demon clan's demon helmet turned and looked at the other side of the space. He saw that this space was similar to the inside of the blood fiend spiritual pearl. It was also filled with demon chi and bloody light. At the top of the space, there were 48 blood fiend spiritual pearls of different shades but identical shapes floating everywhere. Under each of the 48 blood demon spirit pearls, there was a similarly shapeless devil clan. Under the light of the blood demon spirit pearls, these devil clan members were surrounded by blood shadows. Each blood shadow swayed with the light. They were either devil clan members or devil clan members. The voice came from the mouth of a demon. Demon. The demon in demon armor looked at the demon shadow and said coldly, "Don't worry. Yuku's blood fiend spirit pearl has already been successfully refined, and he has already activated the blood demon push." "Humph, you have already said this 7 times. One of the demon beasts snorted coldly. "We are all within the blood fiend returning to Hu formation, and we can feel the power of the last blood fiend spiritual pearl. If we didn't use the blood fiend spiritual pearl to guide it, do you think that Yuku's blood fiend spiritual pearl would be able to cross half of the Yilin continent to reach the heaven sacrificial abyss?" "That's right. The problem is that the blood fiend spiritual pearl should have returned to its place long ago." The demon person who spoke earlier continued, "If we miss this time, we will have to wait another 1,000 years to revive Demon Lord Ju." Speaking of Demon Lord Ju, all the demons retracted the demon flame around them and looked down. Far below them there was a vast sea of demon chi. In the demon chi there were blood fiend spiritual pearls flashing like fish. In the center of the demon chi, there was a demon body that was more than 10,000 feet tall. It was like an island in the sea, majestic and unmoving. Although the demon body was not complete, it could be seen clearly. This demon body looked like a cow but not a cow, like a horse but not a horse. Wasn't this the Di Luo that Xiao Hua saw in the 1,000-feet mountain cave? However, the place where the Di Luo's head used to be was now empty. An extremely dim blood fiend spiritual pearl rushed out from Di Luo's demon body and condensed into a blurry shadow in that empty place. However, a kind of chi that was as solid as a rock and as vast as the sky leaked out from this broken demon body and covered the entire space. These demons did not dare to get close to this demon body. Even when they looked at it, a kind of longing and a kind of subservience arose in their hearts. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the moment when the demons looked at the demon body, a sea breeze seemed to blow. The vast demon chi suddenly rolled up and rushed to the sky like a storm. The Yin astral moment has arrived. A demon in the shadow of a demon beast hurriedly said, "What should we do?" Following this sentence, the 48 demons all looked at the center of the blood fiend returning formation. There, a demon beast whose demon body was obviously bigger than the other demons was under the influence of the blood fiend returning formation. The demon flame around his body, along with the demon chi, rose to a height of nearly 1,000 feet. "We're not waiting anymore." The demon beast did not hesitate at all. It seemed that he had made a decision long ago. He said, "We've sent the 48 blood fiend spiritual pearls from all over the Yilin continent to this place. This has already attracted the attention of the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance. If we don't activate the demon formation this time, I'm afraid we won't have another chance in the future. As for the blood fiend spiritual pearl of the One family, I'm afraid that if something goes wrong, the cultivators of the Tao Alliance will follow the blood fiend spiritual pearl and chase after us. Although we can't completely revive Demon Master Ju, as long as Demon Master Ju can wake up, we'll have done a great service." As the demon race spoke, the demonic aura below them began to condense into a pillar of chi that gradually extended into the sky. Above the demon race's heads, an extremely cold and dark energy was also born, passing through the fragment and entering the space. Looking at the demon master's still corpse, it seemed to have been disturbed. It actually began to sway as if it wanted to rise. "Holy!" All of a sudden, the leader of the demons let out an angry roar, emitting a strange rhythm. Then he opened his mouth, and a human-shaped blood shadow rushed out from the demonic light, directly landing on the blood fiend spirit pearl above his head. "Sage." Following the demon beast leader's roar, the 46 demons were all shocked, and each of them sent the blood fiend spiritual pearl. Buzz buzz buzz. The 48 blood fiend spiritual pearls shone brightly with blood-red light, flying towards the source of the Yin energy. At the same time, The demon chi that had originally condensed into a huge pillar was also attracted by the Blood Fiend Spiritual Pearl's blood-red light, turning into 48 demon pillars and entering the Blood Fiend Spiritual Pearl. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Chidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward. And once again, thank you to Cabbage, Blossoming Blossom, Withering Flower, East Becomes West Old, Benbin, as well as all the fellow Taoists who supported the third place winner. Chapter 49-22. Boom boom boom. Like meteorites landing on the ground, 48 loud sounds came from above the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl. When the Yin energy was hit by the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl, it was as if the transparent water was dyed with blood. 48 huge demonic marks suddenly appeared and then gathered above the demon ancestor's body. In just a moment, the 48 demonic marks gathered together and actually formed a demonic mark that covered the entire space. The Yin energy above the demonic mark rumbled and the demonic mark produced an indescribable fluctuation. This fluctuation tore apart the space near the demonic mark and the demonic mark began to distort. Under the demonic mark, the bloodline power and soul power that could tear apart Xiaohua's body condensed together. Following the distortion of the demonic mark, the two mysterious powers of heaven and earth began to pass through the space and fell on the demon ancestor's body that was gradually rising. As the bloodline power and soul power penetrated the demon ancestor's body, the demon ancestor's body gradually revealed the color of blood. Moreover, the faint aura from before became extremely dense. At this moment, woo! A sharp screech came from the side of the Yin energy. The last Blood Demon Spirit Pearl that had almost lost all of its blood color finally passed through the abyss and came out from the space crack and fell into the fragment space. Holy! The last demon ancestor had been standing at the side of the fragment space and waiting. Seeing the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl coming, he didn't have time to examine it carefully. He roared and opened his mouth. Whoa! The blood light immediately rushed into the sky and landed on the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl. However, what made the demon ancestor stunned was that when the blood light landed, the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl didn't emit blood light like the other 48 Blood Demon Spirit Pearls. Instead, when the blood light landed on the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl, Kacha? A series of dull cracking sounds came from the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl. Under the demon ancestor's stunned eyes, cracks appeared on the surface of the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl that was covered with demonic marks. What is going on? The demon ancestor was stunned and didn't know what to do. Boom! At this moment, the sound of an explosion suddenly came out. The Blood Demon Spirit Pearl actually broke into pieces. Kakaka. A burst of arrogant laughter came out from the broken Blood Demon Spirit Pearl. Following this laughter, a majestic aura that was even more vast and mighty than the demon ancestors rippled out from the Blood Demon Spirit Pearl. In an instant it covered the entire space. Demon Lord? Not to mention this demon, even the 48 demons in the spatial fragment were at a complete loss. Murderous demon flew out from the blood bead. His body immediately swelled up, and in just a blink of an eye, he had become a few thousand feet tall. Demon Venerable sure didn't need to look in any other direction. He immediately looked at Demon Venerable Ju's remains and couldn't help but sneer. Demon Venerable's remains? Haha, who would have thought that there would still be the remains of the Demon Realm's Demon Lord in the Yilan continent? As Demon Venerable sure laughed, he raised his head to look at the sky. Seeing the 48 blood droplets as well as the power of the bloodline, the power of the soul, and the power of the Yin astral force, the smile on Demon Venerable Shure's face became even wider. He could not help but cry out, "This is great, this sovereign was just worried about where to get enough blood spirit energy, this is great, this is all ready-made, even if Big Brother knows, he will definitely not blame this sovereign." After speaking, Demon Venerable Shure opened his mouth. Woo! A stream of demonic chi mixed with blood rushed out, instantly turning into 48 demons, madly pouncing towards the 49 demons. These 49 demons were at most at the Demon Commander or Demon King level. How could they be a match for Demon Venerable Shure? When the blood demons rushed over, these demons all exploded into blood and entered the mouths of the demons. Immediately, the 48 blood demons rushed into the Blood Demon Spirit Pearls, and all of the Blood Demon Spirit Pearls spun even more crazily than before. Almost limitless Yin astral force, souls, and bloodline continuously flowed into Demon Venerable Shure's body. Demon Venerable Shure blocked Demon Venerable Ju's remains, and the remains naturally fell from the sky, landing in the sea of demonic chi. It was still like an uninhabited island, floating alone. A few years passed in the blink of an eye. Seeing that the luster of the dozens of blood fiend spiritual pearls was becoming transparent, and the unparalleled astral force was gradually weakening, Demon Venerable Sure grinned and laughed. Big brother, come out quickly. If you are any later, the souls of these humans will also be devoured by this little brother. After speaking, the demonic chi on the surface of Demon Venerable Sure's body quickly shrank, and the moment Xiaohua's body appeared, shua. Another demonic light flashed, and Demon Venerable Sure flew out from Xiaohua's bloodline. Xiaohua's mind came out from the space, looking left and right, golden light flashed around his body, transforming into a Taoist robe. When Demon Venerable Sure devoured the blood demon spirit pearls, Xiaohua already knew everything that happened in the space fragment. He lowered his head to look at Demon Venerable Ju's remains and frowned. Sure, do you know anything from the memories of those demons? Demon Venerable Sure shrugged, smiled and said, little brother already told big brother everything I know. As for why Demon Venerable Ju's remains are here, little brother doesn't know. Is this thing useful to you? Xiaohua asked thoughtfully. If little brother didn't use the laws of heaven and earth to condense the body, this thing would naturally be useful. After little brother devours it, not only can it refine the demonic body, it can also devour the cultivation of this Demon Venerable. Demon Venerable Sure smiled and said, but now, if little brother uses it to refine the demonic body, it will be neglecting the essentials. Moreover, this Demon Venerable's cultivation, to be honest, is much lower than little brother's, so there's no harm in not devouring it. That's good. Xiaohua smiled and said, if you don't have any use for it, give it to Zhang Qingxiao. Of course. Demon Venerable Sure nodded. Big brother's second senior brother is little brother's second senior brother. Previously, big brother told little brother to leave some blood demon spirit pearls. Little brother understood. Since that's the case, keep these things, we will rush to Wumeng Mountain Range. Xiaohua smiled and ordered. Demon Venerable Sure raised his hand and grabbed, and 48 blood demon spirit pearls fell into his demonic palm. Demon Venerable Sure withdrew his demonic palm, and a burst of demonic chi surged, and dozens of blood demon spirit pearls actually condensed into one. Go. Demon Venerable Sure waved his hand again, and the blood demon spirit pearl fell into the sky. Puff. Demon Venerable Sure opened his mouth again, and spat out a mouthful of demonic blood, hitting the blood demon spirit pearl, and an even more mysterious demonic pattern than before appeared. At the same time, the blood demon spirit pearl slowly rotated and actually turned into a fist-sized whirlpool, and the sea of demonic chi instantly rushed into the whirlpool. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, thank you for all forms of support. Thank you Benbin, Lovely Broken String, Sunset Cloud Flight, and other fellow Taoists. I don't have any more chapters. Chapter 49-23. Xiaohua had only absorbed a small part of the demonic chi, but the remains of the Demon Venerable Ju had already begun to appear. When Di Luo's hoof fell into Xiaohua's eyes, roar? A dragon-like roar suddenly came out from the remains of Di Luo. Demon Venerable Sure and Xiaohua's complexion changed at the same time. They looked at each other and said in unison, Demon Blade Murder? Sure enough, as the man and the demon cried out in alarm, a pitch-black saber tip eerily appeared from the demonic energy. This saber tip didn't seem real at all, as if it were in this space and also outside of this space. The space around the saber tip twisted and even light that fell into the saber tip was cut in half, unable to reflect any light at all. From the blade tip, a sky-piercing murderous aura appeared. This aura was exactly the same as the demon blade murder that had fused with Xiaohua's left hand before. Roar. When the blade tip of the demon blade murder appeared, it immediately produced a dragon-like roar. The blade tip flashed and was about to cut open the space fragment and rush out. How could the Demon Venerable Sure let the fat meat in his hand slip away? He raised his hand and the demon blade murder that had already fused with him appeared. A wave of murderous aura that could engulf the heaven and earth gushed out and fused with the blade tip's aura. Roar. The blade tip whistled again. This time it seemed to be filled with joy. It changed its direction and pounced on the demon blade murder. Ka. With a crisp sound, the blade tip landed on the broken part of the broken blade and perfectly fused with it. Immediately, an even more ferocious aura rushed out from the demon blade murder. Not only did it fill up the space, it even penetrated the void and penetrated into the abyss outside of the space fragment. Kacha. The sound of thunder rose again. A strange pitch-black lightning appeared on top of the space fragment. Countless light shadows twisted and fell down with a loud bang. Xiao Hua was originally happy for the demon Venerable Shi, but the moment the blade tip touched the broken blade, a mysterious feeling came from his left arm. A completely different world law from Xiao Hua's body quietly appeared. Xiao Hua couldn't help but exclaim, "Ouch! What's going on?" However, he didn't have time to look anymore. Demon Venerable Shi's left arm gushed out a wave of demonic chi and blood light, and the demon blade murder and the blade tip were absorbed into his body. Shwa. Above his head, the strange lightning disappeared like the wind. The light shadows also disappeared into the void. Interesting. Xiao Hua did not pay attention to Demon Lord Shi. Instead, he was comprehending a different part of the laws of heaven and earth on his left arm. He thought to himself, this part of the laws of heaven and earth must belong to Demon Blade Shi. But hadn't the demonic saber Shi already fused with the demon sovereign Shi? Why is there an additional law in this Zhao's left arm? Moreover, this law seems to be a little messy and not complete. Presumably, it's because the devil saber murder wasn't completely refined. Thinking up to here, Xiao Hua was suddenly startled, and a thought flashed through his mind. This thought was like a bolt of lightning that illuminated his thoughts. If this law is the devil saber murder, then repairing the devil saber murder is repairing this law. Then, wasn't refining slaughter devil saber the same as refining a Dao law? Where did the murderous devil blade this law come from? Could it be that these were the materials used to refine the demonic saber murder? Could the materials also be some laws? If these laws were fused together with the demon realm's blood refining technique to form a new law, would this law become the demonic blade murder? If that's the case, then all magic tools, demonic tools, imperial tools and so on, and even spirit pills, wouldn't they all be a kind of heaven and earth law? It's just that because the heaven and earth law isn't the same, the amount of profoundness contained in the law is different, the forms they manifest are also different, and the magnitude of their power is also different. If that's the case, then wouldn't everything in this world be condensed from the law? It's not only this Zhao's body that's like this, but the bodies of other cultivators and the bodies of people in the secular world should also be like this. Xiao Hua truly had a feeling that with a single thought, all thoughts were born. Or perhaps, the cultivation of us cultivators is to find the law within the body and strengthen this law? And in the end, like this Zhao's body that is completely constructed from the law. Xiao Hua was just thinking about it excitedly. Oh, whoa whoa. A strange chanting sound suddenly came from the demon sovereign Jew's broken body, and then he saw a myriad of pure and holy brilliance rush out from the remnant devil chi in the air like sharp swords. Within the brilliance, there were unknown tree branches, flowing streams and small winged spirit bodies appearing. A pure and holy aura also leaked out from this illusory figure, tenaciously strengthening in the space where the devil chi was wreaking havoc. This. Xiao Hua stopped thinking, and when his gaze fell on the pure and holy brilliance, he couldn't help but be stunned. A feeling of disbelief appeared in his heart, but he also had a kind of absolute premonition that he seemed to have thought of something. Immediately after, he hurriedly looked at the demon sovereign Jew's broken body that was covered in the pure and holy brilliance. Sure enough, the originally faint demon sovereign aura now poured out from the broken body like a flood. That aura controlled the devil chi and turned it into countless devil marks, turning them into ferocious devils that covered the sky and earth as they fell towards the brilliance. And within the pure and holy brilliance, the originally pure spirit bodies instantly transformed into battle generals wearing battle armor, chanting battle songs as they rushed towards the devils. For a moment, the pitch-black devil fists and the pure and holy brilliance tangled together, and the entire space was filled with a dense aura of life and death. Damn it! Seeing that the pure and holy brilliance pierced through the devil chi and landed on the demon sovereign Jew's broken body, the devil marks on the broken body either resisted or collapsed, and the originally broken body began to collapse even more. Xiao Hua cursed in a low voice, and raised his head to look at the demon sovereign Shi. The demon sovereign Shi was also stunned at this moment. He also looked at the pure and holy brilliance in disbelief, and a trace of innate fear actually appeared in his eyes. Xiao Hua shouted, "Sure, at this point, what are you still hesitating for? Damn it." Xiao Hua's words woke the demon sovereign Shi up. He couldn't help but grin and shout, "Big brother, could it be that this little brother saw wrongly? Isn't this the holy light realm's holy light? How can there be holy light in the Yilin continent?" Hearing the demon sovereign Shi's words, Xiao Hua's face was filled with doubt, but he did not say much and anxiously shouted, "There's no need to say any more, quickly take away the demon sovereign Jew's body, this demon sovereign's body is extremely important to Zhang Qingxiao." Hee hee. The demon sovereign Shi chuckled, Don't worry, big brother. Although the Holy Light Realm's holy light is the same as the Buddhist light of the Buddhist sect, and is the natural nemesis of the demon clan, this holy light is clearly released by some kind of holy artifact. It originally had no owner, so how could it be a match for this little brother? Let's see how this little brother will destroy this holy artifact. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Also, I didn't have a full subscription group before, but under the suggestion of a fellow Taoist, I created a WeChat full subscription group. Before entering, please contact the Cultivation Gods Customer Services WeChat XYCQ1186258881CU and ask him to add all of you who have fully subscribed. Chapter 49-24. While speaking, Demon Lord Shi waved his left hand, and Demon Blade Shi let out an explosive sound, and an extremely fierce black light immediately appeared. Don't be anxious. Xiao Hua's heart moved and he hurriedly said, just protect Demon Lord Ju's body, big brother will go down and take a look. Demon Lord Shi was startled and he was somewhat hesitant. Although he was not afraid of this holy light, he was still unwilling to see a holy weapon that could emit holy light in this world. However, since Xiao Hua had spoken, Demon Lord Shi had no reason to not agree. He hurriedly shouted, all right, big brother, be careful. While speaking, Demon Lord Shi withdrew his blade, and threw Demon Blade Shi to Demon Lord Ju's side. Ao. Countless demonic qi and blood demons roared as they rushed out from Demon Blade Shi, and crazily pounced towards the holy light. What was special was that the demonic qi that was fighting with the holy light was also boiling, as if it had seen its reinforcements, and it was energized as it pounced into the holy light. In just a moment, all of the holy light was suppressed by the demonic qi, and the entire space was once again filled with the smell of blood. Xiao Hua slightly frowned, and urged his body to enter the demonic qi. After passing through the area where the demonic qi and the holy light were fighting, he finally arrived at a place of light. This place of light was not big, and was much smaller than the space enveloped by the demonic qi. When Xiao Hua entered, a burst of hymns immediately sounded in his ears, and a spirit body with a pair of transparent wings hovered around him. Similarly, a bunch of unknown tree branches also appeared around him. A kind of otherworldly, holy, quiet and peaceful feeling emerged from the bottom of Xiao Hua's heart. This is the angel that Vairocana Buddha spoke of? Xiao Hua squinted his eyes and looked at the spirit body and thought to himself, these spirit bodies are like children, and they look much cuter than the Buddhist sect's fairies. What is this song? Why does it sound like the Buddhist sect's scriptures, and it gives off a sense of tranquility? What does this water flow mean? After looking for a moment, Xiao Hua released his divine sense, wanting to check the situation of the space, but when he released his divine sense he found something strange. This space was different from the space enveloped by devil qi. Divine sense was somewhat restricted like some milk. However, Xiao Hua's divine sense was strong enough that these restrictions were nothing. With a sweep of his divine sense he could see everything within the space. In the blink of an eye, the previously adorable children's appearances had changed greatly. After Xiao Hua's divine sense swept over them, the children's figures suddenly swelled up and transformed into robust human figures. However, this humanoid figure looked like a man and looked like a general. Strange armor appeared on the surface of the bodies of these battle generals. Those transparent wings became thicker and longer. Long spears appeared in the hands of these battle generals. Within the light, thousands of battle generals had already formed a battle formation, as though they were on guard. Not to mention that these so-called war generals were merely spiritual projections in the holy light. Even if they were real spiritual bodies, how could Xiao Hua fear them? Xiao Hua only smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand he blocked the holy light. The thousands of spiritual projections were annihilated, and the figure fell into the space. This was because he could already clearly see that at the bottom of the space, there was a fist-sized vessel. The holy light in the entire space was emitting from this vessel. However, Xiao Hua still underestimated this vessel. When he was only 100 zhang away from the vessel, another resounding hymn pierced into Xiao Hua's heart like a long spear. Countless waves of holy light overflowed from the vessel. Within these waves, a human figure wearing a pure white robe stood on top of the vessel. This human figure's appearance was not very clear, but that pair of eyes full of compassion and pity were abnormally clear. Moreover, at the corner of those eyes, there was a faint teardrop. Following the appearance of this human figure, a burst of heaven and earth power spontaneously appeared and blocked Xiao Hua's advance. Xiaohua was a little shocked. Right now, although he had not recovered his 10th grade essence power, he still had the strength of a middle 9th grade essence power. How could a normal spiritual treasure's aura possibly block his advance? Xiaohua could not help but secretly ponder, who is this human figure? Why does a mere projection have such power? This holy light realm is a little strange. No wonder this saint artifact was suppressed under the demon lord's remnant body. After looking for a while, Xiaohua raised his hand and saluted. Not caring if that projection could hear him, he looked into the eyes of that human figure and said, "Fellow Taoist, I Xiaohua greet you. Although I do not know what kind of almighty you are from the holy light realm, nor do I know what kind of saint artifact this vessel is. However, I do not have any evil intentions. I want to suppress the demon lord's body, so I cannot avoid releasing this saint artifact. And since this saint artifact is being suppressed, I believe that releasing this saint artifact will have a bad influence on the Dao sects of the Yilin continent. Therefore, I want to keep this saint artifact. In the future, if I have the fate to meet fellow Taoists from the Holy Light Realm, I will return this saint artifact to the Holy Light Realm." Xiaohua had a clear conscience and his gaze was naturally clear. As he spoke, his eyelids did not even blink. What was a little strange was that as Xiaohua's voice landed, the hymn actually calmed down, and the spiritual body in the light figure once again turned into a child. "Then I will make my move." As Xiaohua spoke, he slowly raised his hand. Rumble. In the midst of a huge explosion, a hand of lightning light produced a strong restriction, imprisoning the space around the vessel. Once the restriction was in place, the hymn above the vessel once again became incomparably sharp. The holy light was extremely resplendent, as if it was going to pierce through the void. Even the gaze of that human figure of light changed a little. "My apologies." As Xiaohua spoke, he suddenly activated his magic power. Woo-woo. As if crying, as if in grief, the holy light was suddenly annihilated. That human figure of light also collapsed, entering the vessel. Once the light disappeared, the demonic energy and blood figure above Xiaohua's head loudly fell, enveloping the entire space. However, after a few breaths, the surging demonic energy like a receding tide fell into Demon Sovereign Ju's remnant body. Demon Sovereign Sure opened his mouth and a blood light fell. Demon Sovereign Sure's remnant body rapidly shrank, turning into the size of a palm, and was sealed in a blood crystal. The Sacred Light Realm's artifact fell into Xiaohua's hand. A sweet fragrance wafted out from the artifact. This fragrance carried a medicinal smell. Xiaohua looked at it and didn't think too much about it. He also sealed it with his hand and threw it into the space. "Big brother." Demon Sovereign Sure happily landed and said with a smile, "Little brother is fortunate to have not failed you." As he spoke, Demon Sovereign Sure handed the blood crystal to Xiaohua. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, cast a monthly vote, cast a recommendation vote, collect a gift, and thank you for all forms of support. In addition, I didn't have a full subscription group before, but under the suggestion of a fellow Taoist, I created a WeChat full subscription group. Before entering, please contact the Cultivation Gods customer service on WeChat XYCQ1186258881CU, and let him add you to the full subscription group. Chapter 4925. Many thanks. Xiaohua also threw the blood crystal into the space. The demon-slaying body trembled and he hurriedly said, "Big brother is too polite with me. You are me and I am you." Xiaohua smiled and asked, "How is the demon saber?" "Although the demon saber is complete, it still needs to be refined." Demon Venerable Sure hurriedly replied, "However, refining the demon saber is far from being done in the Yilin continent. As far as I know, even the demon world can't do it. Another heavy responsibility." Xiaohua looked around and smiled, "I'll leave this to you. Big brother can't help you." "Big brother, don't worry, I will definitely refine the demon saber." Demon Venerable Sure patted his chest and promised. "Moreover, Big brother's strength hasn't recovered, and the others haven't woken up yet. In the future you will have to protect Big brother," Xiaohua said seriously to Demon Venerable Sure. Demon Venerable Sure's body trembled and he looked at Xiaohua and said, "Big brother, you trust me so much?" "Yes, why wouldn't I trust you? You are my little brother," Xiaohua said with a smile. "If Big brother doesn't trust you, who else can I trust?" I thought. Demon Venerable Sure had mixed feelings, and his slightly inferior but arrogant heart couldn't help but tremble. Xiaohua knew what Demon Venerable Sure wanted to say. He said meaningfully, "Buddha Bodhi is the primordial spirit that I personally split, and he is also one of my clones. Back then, I had many doubts in the higher bound and I made him feel wronged. Although you are not my primordial spirit, you are still my avatar. Don't you feel it? You used the blood shadow art to refine your body, and now you are using the laws of heaven and earth to condense your spirit. You already have an unbreakable connection with me. You, and the heavenly being Lightning Sage and the others are all the masters of my fortune gate. Yes, I understand. Demon Venerable Sure nodded proudly. I won't think too much in the future. As the demon world's demon venerable, where can I not dominate? I just like being with big brothers. Sweat. Xiao Hua said while holding his forehead with one hand. Us brothers are of the same mind. In the future, no matter where we go, we will definitely be the overlords of a region. Could it be that you want to run away just because a celestial said a few words to you? Hee, little brother knows. Big brothers were just joking with little brother. Demon Venerable Sure immediately smiled mischievously, looking even more shameless than Zhang Qingxiao. Isn't little brother just teasing big brother? Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. Xiao Hua waved his hand. Big brother, let me ask you, where is this place in the Yilin continent? How do we get to the Wuming mountain range? Okay, I'll let big brother know. Demon Honorable Sure immediately giggled and replied seriously, this is the bottom of the Yilin continent's extremely famous heaven sacrificial abyss. Extremely famous? Xiao Hua pinched his chin and asked curiously. After all, he had never seen any records of the heaven sacrificial abyss in the Chanhe sect. Demon Venerable Sure laughed and said, Chanhe sect is just a sect the size of a fingernail, how could they know about heaven sacrificial abyss? This heaven sacrificial abyss is the boundary between the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance. Stop. Xiao Hua hurriedly asked again, you said this is the boundary between the Heaven Alliance and the Tao Alliance? How did we get teleported so far away? This Heaven Alliance is an immortal alliance that can go against the Tao Alliance. What kind of power does it have? Xiao Hua's words had some things that he was clear of, some things that he was not clear of. He said everything in one go, clearly trying to get rid of some of the taboos in Demon Venerable Sure's heart. My demon race has countless secret techniques. A baleful blood bead that can hold a spirit body, going from whatever Panlong Mountain to the heaven sacrificial abyss is nothing. Demon Venerable Sure replied proudly, and according to the information that little brother received, this Heaven Alliance is an alliance formed by Tao cultivators who cultivate primordial spirits. There are 72 immortal alliances under them, which are enemies with the Tao Alliance. Oh, the Tao Alliance is an alliance formed by Tao cultivators who cultivate the primordial spirits. There are 81 immortal alliances under them. Feng Yin Country's Fallen Immortal Sect is a member of Tsupu Immortal Alliance, while Tsupu Immortal Alliance belongs to the Tao Alliance. As for the Chanhe sect, although they are within the Tsupu Immortal Alliance's sphere of influence, they do not belong to the Tsupu Immortal Alliance. Following which, Demon Venerable Sure told Xiao Hua the fragmented information that he obtained from the memories of 10 over demons. Of course, Xiao Hua could directly obtain this information from Demon Venerable Sure through his mind. However, he was still willing to tell Demon Venerable Sure every single word, because Xiao Hua felt that the current Demon Venerable Sure was the same as the other clones. He could already be seen as an independent individual. He had to give them sufficient respect. After Xiao Hua heard this, he nodded his head and said, so the Tao sects in the Yilin continent are actually so prosperous. Previously, I thought that the entire Yilin continent was ruled by the Tao Alliance. At this point, Xiao Hua suddenly thought of something and hurriedly asked, if that's the case, then is that Tsupu Immortal Alliance the Tao Alliance or the Heaven Alliance? This. Demon Venerable Sure hesitated for a moment, then shrugged his shoulders and said, little brother does not know. These little demons don't seem to know much. Furthermore, when they were being possessed, their memories were more or less fragmented. If big brother wants to know, little brother can help big brother find out after we go out. Xiao Hua naturally knew better than anyone else what Demon Venerable Sure's method of finding out information was. How could he dare to let Demon Venerable Sure do it? Thus he smiled and said, you are a Demon Venerable. How could big brother not treat you as a supreme cultivator? We are merely passers-by in the Yilin continent. There is no need for us to know too much about the Yilin continent situation. Big brother has already checked just now. Big brother is still unable to use the spatial evasion technique. However, there is no harm in using the lightning evasion technique. As long as we find the direction of the Wuming mountain range, we can fly over. Hearing that Xiao Hua was not willing to let him go find out information, Demon Venerable Sure was very happy. He hurriedly offered a plan and said, however, big brother, We do not know how to go from the Wu Ming mountain range to the Dan Rain continent spatial tunnel? Don't you remember what you said before? Someone from that Tsiupu Immortal Alliance passed through the Wu Ming mountain range's natural restriction. Little brother feels that we should first find Tsiupu Immortal Alliance and see how they pass through the natural restriction. That's right, that's right. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said, you are right. Big brother is too anxious. Counting the days, we still have a lot of time. Now, only the Wu Ming mountain range is left. We must be careful and not fall short. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and in addition there was no all-subscription group before. Under the suggestion of a fellow Taoist, I created a WeChat all-subscription group. Before entering, please contact the Cultivation Gods customer service on WeChat XYCQ1186258881CU, and ask him to add all the fellow Taoists who have all subscription. Chapter 49-26. At this point Xiaohua looked left and right. Outside the spatial fragment, the scenery had already changed. An inexplicable spatial storm mixed with a strange spatial ripple was wreaking havoc in the surroundings. Light and shadow changed and created many illusions. Xiaohua smiled again and said, since this heaven sacrificial abyss is a natural barrier that separates the Tao Union and the Heaven Union, it will be troublesome to get out of here. Do you have any ideas? Leave it to little brother. Demon Venerable Shi Jiang thumped his chest loudly and shouted, little brother has just found out that there is a black demon path that leads to the outside of the abyss from this space fragment. It was built by these demon bastards with great effort. These demon race have spent a lot of effort. You have let them down by devouring them. Xiaohua looked at Demon Lord Shi and raised his hand to point out a few demon patterns. Those demon patterns landed in a corner of the space and immediately started to spin. He smiled and said, they want to revive this Demon Lord Ju. Aren't you more powerful than this Demon Lord? The Demon Lord Shi opened his mouth and said, big brother, it is their fortune to be devoured by this Demon Lord. Why do you think they want to revive this Demon Lord Ju? It is to be devoured by this Demon Lord Ju. Forget it, forget it. Xiaohua smiled bitterly and waved his hand, this is your demon race's matter. Big brother doesn't understand. You can do whatever you want. The demonic pattern spun rapidly, and after a moment, it condensed into several funnel-like vortexes, which were extremely similar to the ones Xiaohua had seen in the Panlong Mountain. In the end, the vortexes collided with each other, and the power of the demonic pattern hit the void. Puff! The sound of a bubble bursting was heard, and a blood-red passageway that was only a few feet wide appeared in the void. Demon Lord Shi pointed at the blood-red tunnel and smiled, big brother, this is my demon race's black demon path. Only the demon race's demon body can pass through. Big brother should have no problem, right? If you can pass through, big brother can too. Xiaohua nodded and looked at Demon Lord Shi's body spinning like a whirlwind. The entire demon body condensed into demon chi and rushed into the black demon path. After the demon sovereign was killed, Xiaohua also activated his devil technique. As the devil chi around his body twisted, a suction force was born from the black demon path. Xiaohua's figure swayed, and he also entered the black demon path. Above the void fragment, a curvy strand of demon chi strangely passed through the gaps between the void fragment. It swayed left and right in the spatial storm like a string of a kite, and one end of the string plunged deep into a certain part of the abyss. Looking above the abyss, beyond the layers of fragments, under the cover of the sun and moon, there were several more passages 10,000 feet wide across the abyss. Outside the passages, layers of talismans were stacked together, and layers of spiritual energy fluctuations intertwined. Rays of light formed a barrier that firmly protected the passages. On one side of the passage, more than a dozen cultivators at the spirit-severing stage were holding magic treasures and patrolling in an orderly manner. On the other side of the passage, there were more than a dozen cultivators with similar strength standing there, constantly monitoring the movements of the passage. Xiaohua's figure fell into the black demon path, and a force that was close to the teleportation pressure fell. Then he saw spots of fine lines appear in the nearby space. These fine lines revealed black and white light, and at the same time, there were threads of blood permeating this light. In just a few minutes, Xiaohua felt his body become light, and the moonlight in front of him was like a painting. The demon sovereign had been waiting in the air for a long time. At this time, his body had shrunk, and he was like a cloud of faint black fog floating there. Even if ordinary cultivators scanned him with their divine sense, they wouldn't be able to detect him. Seeing Xiaohua come out, the demon sovereign raised his hand and pointed in a direction. He hurriedly said, "Big brother, there is another black demon path 100,000 miles ahead of us. I don't know where it will be teleported to. Do you think we should use that black demon path or the teleportation formation of the Heaven Alliance?" Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, "Let's use the black demon path. After all, this place is very close to the Tao Alliance and you and I are not familiar with the Heaven Alliance. If we encounter any interrogation it will be quite troublesome." Che. The demon sovereign snorted coldly and said, "Big brother is already a sovereign cultivator of the human race. Do you still need to worry about any trouble?" Xiaohua smiled and said, "Big brother is like this. He likes to avoid trouble. Moreover, you must know that this is the Yilin continent where our Tao sect is at its peak. Who knows how many experts and sovereign cultivators there are in the Tao Alliance and Heaven Alliance. I remember that day in the 10,000 Demon Realm, when the Tao Heaven Realm was mentioned, even the Rapid Cherry Grand Sage had a headache. You and I are not afraid of these cultivators, but there is no need to find trouble for ourselves, right?" "Alright, whatever Big Brother says." The demon sovereign nodded. "If it was in the demon realm, I would definitely not be so humble." "How is this called humble?" Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "This is called enduring humiliation." "What enduring humiliation?" "It is clearly enduring humiliation." As the demon sovereign spoke, the demon chi around his body surged, and he turned into a black light and disappeared into the void. "Damn it, when did you learn to be coquettish with the lightning, Reverend?" Hearing the demon sovereign's face say a few idioms, which even led Xiaohua's words to deviate, Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh and scold. However, as he spoke, Xiaohua also used the wind escape technique and chased after the demon sovereign. When he reached a place where there was no one, he used the lightning escape technique and left. In just half a day the two arrived at a barren place. The demon sovereign easily found the entrance of the black demon path from the swamp. After driving away some strange beasts, Xiaohua and the demon sovereign once again entered the path. This time, the time of the teleportation was similar to the time of the Blood Fiend Spiritual Pearl's teleportation. When they came out of the black demon path they were at the peak of a towering mountain. Contrary to Xiaohua's expectations, the exit of the black demon path was actually in a teleportation array that seemed to have been damaged long ago. As Xiaohua and the demon sovereign flew out, the clear demon marks rolled up the demon chi and quickly converged into the talisman of the teleportation array. In just a few breaths, even if one used their divine sense to investigate, it would be difficult to find anything strange inside. And what was special was that Xiaohua used his divine sense to investigate this teleportation array and found that if this teleportation array was repaired, it could still be used. In other words, a long time ago, the Tao sect's teleportation array was used together with the demon race's black demon path. Sigh. Xiaohua withdrew his divine sense and sighed, "The more I cultivate, the more I feel that I am shallow. I always find that there are too many secrets in this world that I don't know. Even if I have a primordial spirit and cultivate 10 times more techniques than others, I always feel that what I have learned is just a drop in the ocean." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. In addition, I didn't have a full subscription group before. Under the suggestion of a fellow Taoist, I created a WeChat full subscription group. Before entering, please contact the Cultivation Gods Customer Services WeChat XYCQ1186258881CU, and let him add all fellow Taoists who have a full subscription group. Chapter 49-27. Big brother, aren't you trying to embarrass me? Demon Venerable Sure was displeased. "No matter what, I am still a devil spirit from the higher realm. But I didn't know that the devil race had such a secret technique like the black demon path. My devil race from the higher realm either have spatial abilities or simply use their bodies to break through space. Who would think of using the black demon path? I think the black demon path must have been borrowed from the Tao sect's teleportation formation. Hehe, I seem to have thought of a saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do." Xiaohua laughed. "If the devil race wants to hide among the Tao sect cultivators and not learn from the human race, that won't do." Indeed. Demon Venerable Sure did not laugh but said seriously, "From the incomplete memories of these devils, I know that they have lived in the Yilin continent for a long time. Many of their habits and techniques seem to have changed." "Oh, that's right." Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and asked, "How did these devils get to the Yilin continent? Could it be that the Yilin continent has a space crack similar to the one in the demon-resisting valley of the Xiaoyu continent? What is their purpose in coming to the Yilin continent?" "The Yilin continent doesn't have any demon-resisting valley. However, it seems like the Devil Realm and the Yilin continent would overlap every 10,000 years. In this overlapping area, the human race can enter the Devil Realm, and the Devil race can also come to the Yilin continent. Demon Venerable Sure thought for a while and replied, "These devils were left behind from the last time the world overlapped. As for their purpose, it seems like it really has something to do with Demon Venerable Jew. But as for what it is exactly, I don't know. However, I do know that the Yilin continent is different from the Devil Realm. The Devil race shouldn't have taken root here. When they come to the human realm, it's like the human race is hunting. Alright, no matter what it is, it has nothing to do with me." Xiaohua laughed. Taking advantage of this time, he had already released his divine sense and scanned the surrounding 10,000 li. He said, "I have already discovered a big city of the human race. You can return to the space. I will go and scout for information. If there is a teleportation formation, I will directly take it to the Wumeng mountain range. I will listen to Big Brother's orders." Demon Venerable Sure nodded. "I can also go back and take a look at how to repair this devil blade. Maybe when I reach the Xiaoyu continent I can help Big Brother." "Alright." Xiaohua nodded. Just as the demon supremacy transformed into devil chi and was about to return to the space, it suddenly stopped. A large head poked out of the devil chi and said, "That's right, Big Brother. I remember you once said that Demon General Ji Peng's clone saw your true appearance. Our demon clan has some divine abilities that allow the clone to transmit what it sees to the main body. If you want to obtain information about the Wuming Mountain Range from Demon General Ji Peng or the Liu Immortal Alliance, it's best that you transform into that ugly appearance." "Damn it." Looking at the Demon Lord Shi's big head blinking at me and shrinking back into the devil chi, Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry and scolded, "What do you know, this is my true form." Ha ha ha. Although Demon Lord Shi had hidden himself in the space, his maniacal laughter was still heard in the Yilin continent. Hearing Demon Lord Shi's joyful laughter, Xiaohua's heart also relaxed. Believing in a person, believing in a clone, believing in a demon clan's clone, felt good. Hearing Demon Lord Shi's suggestion, Xiaohua transformed into Zhang Xiaohua's appearance and was about to fly to the big city in the distance. However, after flying for a few thousand feet he remembered something and landed on a mountain. With a shake of his hand he took out the Kunlun mirror and activated the light beam, bringing Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu out of the space. Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu steadied themselves and saw Xiaohua looking at them with a smile that wasn't a smile. They hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior greets Senior Zhang. Many thanks to Senior Zhang for saving our lives." After saying that, Lu Qingyu looked to the left and said worriedly, "Senior Zhang, where is Junior's disciple?" "Don't worry," Xiaohua said with a smile, "all of you are fine. How could this old man let your obedient disciple hurt at all?" That's good, that's good," Lu Qingyu said with a smile but stopped on second thought. Of course, Xiaohua knew what Lu Qingyu wanted to say. He said with a smile, "The opportunity you are waiting for is different from his. When this old man and he part ways, I will naturally call him out." "Part ways?" Hearing that, Yu Hua was a little anxious. She looked around and said anxiously, "Senior, where are we? Don't you need me to wait for you?" Haha. Xiaohua looked at the two and said with a smile, "As the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. Now it's time to part ways. You and the others have formed ties of fate with this old man, so this old man will give you two choices. First, follow this old man and you don't have to go back to the Chanhe sect. In the future, the Chanhe sect will have nothing to do with you. Second, part ways with this old man here. This is a place of the Heavenly Alliance. This old man will send you to the nearest big city of the Immortal Alliance and give you enough crystals to let you go back to the Chanhe sect. Of course, if you choose to go back to the Chanhe sect, this old man will ask Nuo Yeching to come out and say goodbye to you." Hearing this, even a person with a screw loose understood Xiaohua's meaning. Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu almost didn't dare to believe their ears. They hurriedly turned over and kowtowed, "Junior greets Master. Don't be anxious, don't be anxious." Xiaohua smiled and said, "This old man has already said the word Master before. It's not something you can call. All of you watch carefully." While speaking, Xiaohua withdrew the illusion technique and revealed Taoist Zhao's appearance. Moreover, he slightly revealed the strength of the middle 9th level of origin energy. Seeing Xiaohua revert to his original appearance, which was 100 times more handsome than before, and there was an indescribable grace between his brows. Needless to say, the aura of the 9th level of origin energy was as vast as the sea to Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu. The two of them couldn't help but cry out as they understood the meaning of Xiaohua's words. Xiao Hua hurriedly withdrew his aura and helped the two of them up. He smiled and said, "This old man is the Fortune Gate sect master Xiao Hua Daoist Xiao. This old man is not a cultivator of the Dao Union, nor a cultivator of the Heaven Union. This old man is a Dao sect cultivator from another world. As for why this old man came to the Yilin mainland, you don't need to ask. Someone will tell you in the future. Since you are willing to go with this old man will let this old man's disciple accept you." Saying this, Xiao Hua waved the Kunlun mirror and called out Li Xiang and Xiong Yi. The two nascent soul cultivators landed on the foot of the mountain. They didn't forget to look around and immediately bowed. "Greetings, Master. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward." And Chapter 49-28. And wait a moment. Xiao Hua nodded and pointed at Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu. "These are the two fated cultivators I met when I came from the 10,000 demon realm. Wait and see who accepted them as disciples." "Master, wait a moment." Xiong Yi listened and said, "Let me see their aptitude." "Okay." After Xiao Hua agreed, Xiong Yi walked in front of the two and ordered, "You two sit down cross-legged and cultivate." Seeing that Xiao Hua's disciples were nascent soul cultivators and their auras were several times stronger than Lu Hanhuan, Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu didn't dare to neglect and quickly sat down cross-legged. Seeing Xiong Yi examining the two, Li Xiang released his divine sense and looked around. He smiled and said, "Master, this Yilin continent looks similar to the hidden immortal continent. I guess it's not far from the Dawn Rain continent? And now I only need to pass through the Wuming Mountain range to reach the Dawn Rain continent." Xiao Hua looked into the distance with a worried expression. "However, this Wuming Mountain range is not easy to pass. There are many supreme cultivators in the Yilin continent, but when I was in the Dawn Rain continent, I never heard of one. Moreover, the Immortal Dao Alliance in the Dawn Rain continent is only one of the 72 Immortal Dao Alliances in the Yilin continent. This Yilin continent is the place with hidden dragons and crouching tigers." So, Li Xiang's eyes lit up and he smiled. "This Yilin continent is the place where my Fortune Gate's disciples should come? I actually, to tell you the truth, I already regret it." Xiao Hua didn't hide and said, "I should have left you in the 10,000 demon realm." Then Xiao Hua told them about the changes in the Yilin continent's spiritual energy and the passing of lifespan. Finally he said, "If you stay in the Yilin continent, the path of cultivation is really difficult. Moreover, the Dao Alliance here seems to be in a desperate situation." Unexpectedly, Li Xiang didn't have any special expression. He only smiled and said, "If that's the case, then we should go to the Dawn Rain continent. That's where Master was born. The Fortune Gate there is also Master's face." "Master." At this moment, Xiong Yi had already finished his inspection. He returned and transmitted his voice. "These two people's aptitude is average. They might not be able to cultivate to the spirit-severing stage. I do not wish to accept them." Let me have a look." Although Li Xiang couldn't hear Xiong Yi's voice, he already knew what Xiong Yi meant by looking at Xiong Yi's expression. Therefore Li Xiang said as he walked behind Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu. After checking them casually, Li Xiang said with a smile, "Master, these two people's aptitudes are average and their cultivation methods are relatively poor. However, I've been stupid since I was a child. I know how hard it is for them to cultivate. I'm willing to accept them as my disciples." Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu had always been nervous. Now that they heard Li Xiang say that he wanted to take in a disciple, their hearts were finally at ease. They hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed, "Disciple greets Master." Seeing this, Xiao Hua was also happy. He clapped and said, "Very good. Greetings, Grand Master." Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu obediently kowtowed again. Li Xiang quickly waved his hand and said, "Disciple, call sect leader De Laoi first. It's not appropriate for you all to address him as martial ancestor now. If the other Fortune Gate inner sect disciples hear it, they will be unhappy." Although Li Xiang's words were to stop them, there was a hint of pride in his tone. Although their cultivation was low, they were still Xiao Hua's personal disciples. Although Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu didn't understand, they already knew that this Fortune Gate was definitely a sect several times bigger than the fallen immortal sect. Therefore they hurriedly changed their greetings and said, "Disciple greets sect leader De Laoi." "Hee, get up, get up." Xiao Hua laughed and took out 2 jade bottles from his bosom. He handed them over and said, "You two have fate with this old man. Now that I've accepted you into my Fortune Gate, it can be considered as fulfilling one of this old man's wishes. These are the pills this old man refined, take them." "Thank you, sect leader De Laoi." Yuehua and Lu Qingyu were overjoyed and hurriedly received the pills. Haha. A loud laughter sounded as Lord Devil flew out and shouted, "Sect leader, the other old masters haven't woken up yet. Now that this lord has come to show his face, why aren't you greeting sect leader De Leoi?" Yuehua and Lu Qingyu were already pale with fright when they saw the majestic aura of the devil race appear. Their knees went soft and they almost collapsed to the ground. Xiaohua was displeased and said, "Look, you've scared the children." "Ai, how boring, how boring." Lord Devil's desire to show off had long disappeared when he saw the two little cultivators' limp appearance. He waved his hand and his figure flashed into the space. This guy is a little too complacent. Seeing Lord Devil freely enter and exit the space in front of the Fortune Gate's disciples without letting him use the Kunlun mirror, Xiaohua was a little displeased. This could easily expose the secret of his space. Sect leader De Leoi, this is. Yuehua saw the terrifying aura disappear in a flash, so she mustered up her courage to ask. Xiaohua said amiably, "Yuehua, don't be afraid, he is my Fortune Gate sect leader De Leoi. Because this old man's cultivation hasn't fully recovered before I let you two out, this old man let him out to stand guard. Although he is the devil race's devil venerable, he is also my Fortune Gate's disciple, he won't harm you too." Yuehua and Lu Qingyu were afraid, but when they heard the two words devil venerable, it was like a bolt of lightning that knocked them unconscious. How could they still be afraid? A devil race's devil venerable was actually the Fortune Gate sect leader De Leoi. Then what was the cultivation of this sect leader De Leoi and the other sect leaders behind him? What kind of strength did this Fortune Gate have? They were dumbfounded. "You all return to Xinhua continent first." Xiaohua waved the Kunlun mirror in his hand, and a light pillar appeared, enveloping Xiong Yi and the others. "When we return to Dawn Rain continent, this old man will call you out." "Yes, master." Xiong Yi and Li Xiang bowed. The Kunlun mirror's light pillar swept over them, and just as it was about to send them into the space, Lu Qingyu hurriedly shouted, "Sect leader De Leoi, disciple's disciple?" Although Lu Qingyu didn't finish his words, Xiaohua understood the meaning of his words very clearly. He definitely wanted him to bring Nuo Yeqing into the Fortune Gate. However, Xiaohua was even more clear that Nuo Yeqing must have her own secrets. Why should he interfere with other people's karma for no reason? He thought for a moment and said, "Yi Qing's matter, he must have already told you, this old man also doesn't want to mention it. This old man has a very good impression of him, so I agreed to his request and brought him out from Nebula Ridge. As for his purpose, he didn't tell this old man, so this old man naturally won't ask. This is the so-called fate of my Dao Gate, do you all understand? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank all forms of support." Chapter 49-29. Sect Master. Lu Qingyu still wanted to fight for a chance for Nuo Yeqing. Xiaohua liked this kind of fighting spirit the most. Lu Qingyu smiled and said, "Nuo Yeqing has been quiet since he was young, but his talent is not something this disciple boasted about, it is rare in the Chanhe sect. However, he is good at hiding his strength so others can't see it. Moreover, he has a lot of thoughts, always thinking about irrelevant things. He definitely doesn't know our Fortune Gate strength, so he is thinking about other opportunities. If Sect Master likes him, why don't you let him show a little bit of his strength? Are you familiar with Magnolia Hall's Xiaofeng?" Xiaohua asked without any reason. Lu Qingyu was stunned, then blurted out, "Of course. After this disciple's master passed away, Hall Master Xia took good care of this disciple. Do you still remember what this old man said to him that day?" Xiaohua asked indifferently. Lu Qingyu was at a loss, but Yuehua quickly reminded him. Sect Master seemed to have said that Hall Master Xia won't live for more than 10 years, and he said that his fate is not good. "That's right." Xiaohua nodded. If Xiaofeng was in front of this old man now, this old man could guarantee that he won't die for 100 years. He could even cultivate until the late nascent soul stage. However, at that time, this old man was powerless. This is fate and also fate. Xiaohua did not explain further, and the Kunlun mirror sucked the four people into it. Lu Qingyu's expression was a little gloomy. He had heard clearly that Xiaohua respected fate and respected other people's choices. Since Nuo Yeqing had her own secrets and ambitions, Xiaohua would not interfere. Although he felt that Nuo Yeqing was extraordinary and liked her very much, the Fortune Gate's disciples were as numerous as the morning stars. One more Nuo Yeqing was not a big deal, and one less Nuo Yeqing was not a big deal. After understanding the karma between Yuehua and Lu Qingyu, Xiaohua urged the Kunlun mirror to fly towards a big city in the distance. When he got closer and saw clearly, Xiaohua was speechless. This was a mountain peak that was more than 1,000 zhang tall, covering an area of more than 100 mu. Ordinary mountain peaks were accompanied by mountain ranges, and even the worst ones had hills and forests. However, this mountain was different. There were no hills or mountains within a few miles of it. There was only a city wall that was more than 1,000 feet tall surrounding it. On the other hand, it was about 10 miles away from the city wall. There were rolling hills, green grass and spring water. With a single glance, one could tell that all of this was created by great magic power, and not by human power. Between the foothills, there were many mountain springs flowing. Bamboo forests whistled with the wind, and from time to time, some white cranes and sparrows would be startled from the bamboo forests. With a long cry, they would rush into the air, circling in the mountain wind for a moment before slowly descending. Perhaps inadvertently, there was a sudden beast roar. It looked like a huge mountain beast had bumped into the bamboo forest, and a group of small beasts in the bamboo forest in the distance fled in panic. Some of the small beasts ran into the bamboos in a hurry. The bamboos only swayed slightly, and some bamboo leaves fell down. The small beasts were even knocked over. However, the small beasts did not dare to stop. They turned around and shook their confused little heads. Following the sound in front of them, they spread out their thick little legs that were less than 10 inches long and continued to sway as they fled. After passing through the bamboo forest, they crashed into a small hole at the base of the hill. Only then did they calm down. Different from the nearby forest and mountain beasts, the city wall around the mountain peak exuded an indescribable solemnity and dignity. The city wall was made of blue stone and it was covered with fine runes. The runes shone faintly under the light of the eyes, and the densely packed light was like tadpoles merging together outside the city wall. It was not only the brilliance. Within a few miles of the city wall, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth flowed in an orderly manner. It either turned into a fist-sized whirlpool and fell into the runes, or twisted into strips, like small snakes circling around the city wall. High up on the city wall, a light green light curtain covered the sky and fell on the surface of the mountain peak. This light curtain was like a waterfall, but it flowed against the flow and rushed to the top of the mountain peak. The sunlight shone on the light screen. It was shaded by trees and there were layers upon layers of mountains. It looked like an ordinary mountain, but when one looked at the city walls at the foot of the mountain, one would know that it was an illusion. Behind the mountain peak, the faint cyan light screen condensed into a faint ring of light. This ring of light was several acres in size and slowly rotated in the air. Xiaohua was able to clearly see that around the ring of light, there were no less than 81 invisible ripples that were several zhang in size. They were like huge dragons that rushed down and landed in the nearby 81 bamboo forests. They firmly locked onto the mountain peak in the city. An aura as firm as a boulder faintly seeped out from the great array formed by the city, the mountain peak and the bamboo forest, causing people to be truly shocked. Xiaohua stood in midair and looked at the cultivators descending from the sky. Then he looked at the cultivators walking out of the 12 city gates of the big city. He pinched his chin and thought to himself, although I don't know what this big city is called, judging from its location, I'm afraid it's not some important big city. Moreover, there aren't many cultivators going in and out of the city gate, and there aren't many guards outside the city gate. It's probably not a famous city in the Heaven Alliance. But just this ordinary city, whether it's the formation or the aura of the city, it's much stronger than the Heaven Patrol city in the Dawn Rain continent. Yilan continent, Heaven Dao realm, it really lives up to its name. After observing for a moment, Xiaohua flew closer. He didn't know what the rules of this city were, so he looked around and saw the people around him landing at the city gate. He followed suit and was about to land. At this moment, from the sky above the bamboo forest on the right, there was a roar of a beast. He saw a white tiger-like spirit beast carrying a fat monk flying over. Seeing that there was actually a monk on the Yilan continent, Xiaohua was stunned. He didn't fly down in a hurry but waited for a moment. When the monk rode the spirit beast closer, he took a closer look and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How was this a monk? This was clearly a Dao cultivator who cultivated the primordial spirit. However, Xiaohua's eyes turned and he still cupped his hands and said, "Fellow Taoist, please?" When the monk saw the unfamiliar cultivator greet him, his eyes immediately became vigilant. However, when he looked around and saw that they were close to the city wall, he was slightly relieved. He put on a smile on his face and returned the greeting, "Greetings, fellow Taoist. May I know what you're here for?" When the monk said, "Fellow Taoist," Xiaohua felt uncomfortable in his heart. He smiled and said, I came from the Defeat Oak Immortal Alliance near the Woming Mountain. I wanted to visit a friend at the Golden Autumn Mountain, but I got lost when I flew here. So I wanted to ask if you know Perfected Liao of the Golden Autumn Mountain? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward. And Chapter 4930. Jin Xiushan? That monk believed it. On his fat face, a pair of small eyes squeezed into a slit by his fat turned for a moment, then he said blankly, "Sorry, this poor monk has never heard of Jin Xiushan, nor do I know any Taoist Liao. I've disappointed you." Saying that, the monk wanted to urge the spirit beast again, but seeing that they were already close to the big city, he sighed and reluctantly flew down from the spirit beast's back. Just as he landed, the spirit beast made a woo sound, its body expanded a little, and it even gave a cheerful low roar, seeming to be a lot more relaxed. Dong. The monk kicked the spirit beast's butt, kicking it several feet away, his mouth still cursing. "Lazy thing, you only carried this monk for half a day and you're already so tired?" Ow, ow. The spirit beast seemed to be in pain as it growled a few times. The monk stole a glance at Xiaohua and felt that he was losing face. His body moved, and just as he was about to kick the spirit beast again, a gust of wind suddenly appeared near the spirit beast. The spirit beast's body shone brightly, and the spirit beast that was several zhang long turned into a foot long. Then, under Xiaohua's dumbfounded gaze, the spirit beast's body swayed, and like a cat, it pounced on the monk's left leg. Its 4 hooves firmly wrapped around the monk's leg, and its bloody mouth was now only a few inches wide. Its bright red tongue licked the monk's leg here and there. You. The monk swung his leg, but he didn't shake off the spirit beast. He roared a few times as if he couldn't bear to lose his temper again. "Ah, Taoist friend." Xiaohua laughed. "Your spirit beast is really cute. What's its name?" Hee. Hearing this, the monk's face showed a smile, and he lovingly raised his hand to touch the spirit beast's head, saying, "This poor monk gave it the name of tyrannical tiger, but no matter how you look at it, it doesn't look like a fierce tiger that dominates the world. Instead, it looks like an ordinary cat. That's because Taoist friend is benevolent, so the spirit beast you raise is also cute," Xiaohua said with a smile. It's nothing. The monk hurriedly replied. "We are monks, so of course we have to be merciful." At this point, the monk waved his nondescript Taoist robe, and a bright light shone out to keep the spirit beast. Then, he looked at the big city not far away and said with a smile, "I happen to have some matters to attend to in Tong Lake City. If you don't mind, why don't we enter together?" "Oh, thank you so much." Xiaohua nodded and followed the monk. About 100 zhang away from the big city, a layer of faint fluctuation emerged from the ground and swept over Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua knew that it was Tong Lake City's defense, so he ignored it. When the fluctuation swept past without stopping, the monk at the side smiled and said, "I'm Hong Qing. Greetings, fellow cultivator. Just now, I wasn't sure of your identity, so I didn't dare to pay attention to you. Please forgive me." Hee, it doesn't matter. I am Taoist Master Xiao. Xiaohua didn't mind. It would be strange if Tong Lake City's defenses could see through his identity. "So it's Taoist Master Xiao." Hong Qing nodded slightly and said, "It seems that fellow cultivator is a nascent soul cultivator." Yes. Xiaohua already understood the situation of the Heaven Alliance from Demon Lord Shi, so he replied without hesitation, "Most of the cultivators in my Tong Yu Immortal Alliance are nascent soul cultivators. It's very different from other places in the Heaven Alliance." "Sigh, I really envy you nascent soul cultivators." Hong Qing sighed. However, after a moment he suddenly realized something and looked at Xiaohua with surprise. "Alright, you came to Tong Qiong Immortal Alliance to visit a friend. Damn it, how can your luck be so good? You actually came to Tong Lake City by accident." Xiaohua was really confused. He asked curiously, "Fellow cultivator, why do you say that? How can I be so lucky when I came to Tong Lake City?" Hee. The fat Hong Qing's face showed a trace of friendliness. He laughed softly and said, "Taoist Master Xiao, I want to ask you, what's your cultivation level now?" Xiaohua had long seen through this monk's qi refinement realm of the lower 4th grade of essence energy on the surface, but in reality he was already at the upper 4th grade of essence energy, the return to divinity realm. Thus, he proudly said, "This humble Taoist is already at the middle stage of nascent soul realm." Ioyo. Hearing this, the monk couldn't help but smile. However, he said with surprise, "So fellow cultivator has a cultivation level concealment technique. No wonder I saw that you were only in the early stage of nascent soul realm." "I don't dare." It's just a small trick. Xiao Hua was very modest, but his tone revealed a kind of arrogance. Sigh, you nascent soul cultivators, really know how to play. Hong Qing couldn't help but sigh again. I am already a nascent soul realm cultivator, but I don't dare to show off casually. No way. Xiao Hua pretended to be surprised and said, I see that you are only in the qi refinement realm. That's just superficial. Hong Qing also showed off a little. It's nothing. You don't have to take it seriously. So fellow cultivator is also an expert. Xiao Hua quietly flattered him. Of course. If I'm not an expert, how would I know some secret information? As he spoke, Hong Qing saw that the city gate was already close at hand. He hurriedly pulled Xiao Hua and said mysteriously, Fellow cultivator Xiao, let me ask you. How is the recruitment of disciples in the various nascent soul realm sects of Defeat Immortal Alliance? Is it similar to the Tao Alliance? That's right. Xiao Hua was a little puzzled. He followed Hong Qing's tone and replied, Although this old man is a loose cultivator, my disciples are also worried about recruiting disciples. The previous selection technique was useless. The disciples that were recruited looked good, but their cultivation speed was really slow. And some disciples that didn't look so good cultivated extremely fast. That's right. Hong Qing looked around and said in a low voice, This poor monk has a piece of news that can help you solve this problem. Do you want to know? Impossible. How could you have news? Xiao Hua's heart moved. He pretended to be surprised and said, In my Defeat Immortal Alliance, countless seniors have not solved this problem for hundreds of years. At this point, Xiao Hua paused for a moment. He looked like he suddenly realized something and said, I know. Fellow cultivator is talking about the Tao Alliance, right? They already have a way to solve the problem of recruiting disciples? Hong Qing was a little surprised. However, he still continued, the Tao Alliance is too far away. Moreover, you can't cross the Heaven Sacrificial Abyss. Therefore, I's news is naturally within the Heaven Alliance. If fellow cultivator Xiao wants to know, I only need a mid-grade crystal. What do you think? P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, thank you for all forms of support. In addition, today is Mr. Xianqing's birthday. I'll add an update for him and wish him a happy birthday. Chapter 49:31. I can get the solution with just a mid-grade crystal? Xiao Hua was overjoyed. He hurriedly reached into his pocket and shouted, It's really worth it. Fellow cultivator, I'll follow you. Hong Qing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, Fellow cultivator Xiao, you're dreaming. This spiritual root selection method costs 10 top-grade crystals. At this point, Hong Qing realized that he had spilled the beans and hurriedly stopped. It turns out that you don't have a spiritual root selection method. Xiao Hua put down his hand and said curiously, Then why do you ask I for a middle-grade crystal? Hee hee. Hong Qing smiled again and said in a low voice, The spiritual root selection method was created by the Taoist Alliance. They've blocked it from the Heavenly Alliance. No one can get it. However, I know where to get this secret method. Do you think this information is worth a middle-grade crystal? This. Xiao Hua hesitated. He looked at the city gate and thought for a while. He shook his head and said, I think I'd better forget it. I just came out to visit a friend. I haven't thought about the spiritual route yet. I'll enter Tong Lake City and ask where Jin Qiushan is. When I find Jinren Liao, I'll discuss it with him. 10 low-grade crystals. Hong Qing said without hesitation. If Jinren Xiao still doesn't agree, then forget it. Hearing Hong Qing's words, Xiao Hua knew that the place Hong Qing was talking about must be in Tong Lake City. However, he hesitated and said, Fellow cultivator, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth has changed. Nowadays there are fewer crystals. I have 5 crystals. I can't give you less. Hong Qing gnashed his teeth and said, I'm only doing this because you're pleasing to the eye. Otherwise, at this moment at the side of the city gate, there were already more than 10 cultivators hurrying in. They all looked anxious. They glanced at Xiao Hua and Hong Qing, but they did not pay any attention to them. All right. Xiao Hua also replied while gnashing his teeth. As you wish, fellow Taoist. 5 low-grade crystals. Quick, give it to this penniless monk, and this penniless monk will tell you immediately. Hong Qing looked a little impatient. Xiao Hua had plundered a lot of crystal stones from the auction house of Xiahong Mountain. He casually took out 5 low-grade crystal stones from his storage ring and handed them to Hong Qing with a pained expression. Haha. Hong Qing put the crystal into his storage ring and immediately said in high spirits, "Fellow Taoist, please follow I. The spirit root selection method is being auctioned at the Changlin Pavilion. I will bring you there." "Fellow Taoist," Xiaohua cried out, "you can't play like this." "Hee hee." Hong Qing chuckled. With a flick of his Taoist robe, he took out the tyrannical tiger that looked like a cat from his sleeve. He raised his hand and fed the tyrannical tiger a low-grade crystal. The tyrannical tiger opened its mouth and began to chew. Its tail wagged vigorously behind its back. It looked very happy. "Tyrant tiger. This is the food that Taoist Master Xiao gave you. You have to thank him." Hong Qing patted Bahu's head and said with a smile. "Ho ho." While eating, Bahu roared twice at Xiaohua. Although Hong Qing didn't open his mouth, the meaning in his eyes was clear. "Do you still want it? Do you still want to earn food from my family's kitten? Shameless. Come on then." Looking at Hong Qing's ruffian appearance, how could he be a monk? Xiaohua was also helpless. "Forget it, forget it." Xiaohua helplessly waved his hand and said, "These 5 low-grade crystal stones were given to this beast. This old man deserves it. Fellow Taoist, quickly bring this Xiao to the Changlin Pavilion. This Xiao wants to see what the spirit root selection method is like." Xiaohua's words were pointing at the mulberry tree and cursing the locust tree. Hearing this, Hong Qing felt a bit embarrassed. However, since he took out Bahu to take the blame now that he was cursed as Bahu, he deserved it. Anyway, this Hong Qing's skin was thick enough. Perhaps it was because there was too much oil on his face, but in a moment he returned to normal. He smiled and raised his hand. "Fellow Taoist, this poor monk is also going to the Changlin Pavilion to see if the spirit root selection method is suitable for us cultivators who cultivate the primordial spirit. Let's go together." After saying this, Hong Qing waved his big sleeves and took the lead to pass through the city gate. Looking at the fat back, how could it have anything to do with an outstanding cultivator? After Xiaohua passed through the city gate, he was faced with a mountain peak that was so tall that it could pierce through the sky. The mountain peak was full of pavilions which looked completely different from what he saw outside the city. Moreover, at the foot of the mountain within the city walls, there were some palaces of different heights and styles. These palaces looked magnificent, but Xiaohua could see clearly that some of the palaces even had some banners engraved with gourds and cauldrons hanging on them. Obviously, these were shops that sold spirit pills and magic tools. Looking at the mountain peak again, the layers of pavilions looked like the gardens of immortal cultivation sections. However, if one looked carefully, they could clearly see all kinds of signs of selling. Of course, what puzzled Xiaohua was that although there were many pavilions outside the mountain peak, he didn't see any cultivators flying here and there. "Fellow Taoist." Xiaohua was a little bewildered and asked in a low voice, "This Tong Lake City doesn't seem to have many fellow Taoists coming here?" "Hee hee." Hong Qing said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist, just now you thought that you spent those 5 low-grade crystals unjustly. Now do you still need this poor monk to answer you?" "Do as you please." Xiaohua shrugged and asked back, "As long as you feel that those 5 low-grade crystals aren't burning your hands." This Hong Qing was also a weirdo. Seeing that Xiaohua knew that his cultivation was high and wasn't afraid of him, he didn't put on any airs. He rubbed his hands and said, "It seems that it really is burning my hands. Then this poor monk can only take you there." As he spoke, Hong Qing led Xiaohua to the mountain peak. While walking, he pointed at the pavilions on the mountain peak and introduced them. He was very conscientious, as if he was really afraid that the crystals would burn his hands. "Fellow Taoist Xiao, please take a look. This mountain peak is divided into 9 layers. In addition to the 5th layer in the middle and the 9th layer at the top, the other 7 layers correspond to the 8 realms of essence refining, Qi transforming, Qi refining, spirit returning, spirit refining, void returning, and void refining for nascent soul cultivators. Each layer contains elixirs, cultivation methods, magic treasures, spirit beasts, and so on. The 5th layer is where nascent soul cultivators buy items. The Changlin Pavilion is on the 5th layer. Moreover, if you want to buy any other cultivation methods, you can find them on the 5th layer." "What about the 9th layer?" Xiaohua nodded and asked tactfully. Hong Qing was very pleased and said with a smile, "The 9th layer is naturally prepared for the Heavenly Alliance's Tao-fusing seniors. Of course, if there are any nascent soul cultivators in your fully immortal alliance who have passed the heavenly tribulation, they can also come to the 9th layer to buy items. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank you for all kinds of support. Today I will add a chapter for fellow Taoist Xianqing's birthday. I wish him a happy life every year. Chapter 49-32. Xiao Hua didn't know about any tribulation transcending cultivators in the Heavenly Alliance. He could only reply, "Hee, I'm just a loose cultivator. How could I know about any tribulation transcending seniors in the Immortal Alliance?" "And that's good. I'll teach you a trick." Hong Qing hurriedly lowered his voice and said, "When you come out of the Changlin Pavilion, you might as well go to the 8th floor to take a look. Sometimes some Taoist seniors will go to the 8th floor from the 9th floor. If you see them, immediately kneel down and kowtow with tears and snot running down your face. Tell them about your miserable life. Maybe some seniors will take pity on you and take you in." "Damn it, why don't you go?" Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Alas, look at me." Hong Qing raised his arm and turned left and right. "No matter what, I don't look like someone who came from a poor background." As they spoke, they arrived at the side of the mountain peak. They were about 1,000 feet away from the peak. Swish. At the same level as Xiao Hua's eyes, a rune that looked like an eye appeared. Then, the eye suddenly expanded and turned into a grid that was more than 100 feet in size. A sturdy Qi transformation cultivator stood at the side of the grid with a smile, quietly watching Xiao Hua and Hong Qing approach. "Fellow Taoist Xiao," Hong Qing said without any trace of politeness, "didn't you just ask? Why are there no cultivators flying outside the mountain peak?" "I'll tell you now. It's because the Tong Lake City's auction peak uses a teleportation formation as the passage. Cultivators are not allowed to fly outside the mountain peak." "Teleportation formations are used between the different floors?" Xiao Hua was inexplicably surprised and shouted, "My Liu Immortal Alliance doesn't have that many teleportation formations." "So Senior is a cultivator of the Liu Immortal Alliance?" The Qi transformation cultivator heard Xiao Hua's deliberately mystifying words and said with a smile, "Senior, are you going to the 6th floor?" Xiao Hua didn't understand why the Qi transformation cultivator said that. Just as he was about to ask, Hong Qing took a few steps forward and said with familiarity, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, follow me to the Changlin Pavilion on the 5th floor." "Oh then Senior, please." The Qi transformation cultivator nodded and raised his hand to take out an all-like magic treasure. As he waved it, one of the several grids on the side suddenly flew out and rapidly turned into a simple teleportation formation. "And this poor monk will go first." As Hong Qing spoke, he had already stepped into the teleportation channel. Only then did he turn his head and say to Xiao Hua, "Hand the crystals over to the guards of Tong Lake City." Xiao Hua stared blankly for a moment. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He watched as the brilliant light of the teleportation channel rushed up and covered Hong Qing's fat body. After a moment, Hong Qing disappeared. "Motherf **, I don't know this shameless fatty." Xiao Hua spat, then turned around to leave. "Senior." That Qi transformation cultivator didn't dare to leave his post to stop Xiao Hua. Instead, he bitterly cried out, "It's only 2 low-grade crystal stones. If Senior feels it's inappropriate, then this junior will pay for the crystal stones of that senior just now." Of course, it was impossible for Xiao Hua to leave. He looked at the shrewd cultivators and took out 2 low-grade crystals from his storage ring. He tossed them to the Qi transformation cultivators and said, "Fine, you can have them. This old man was just joking with you." Junior knows that Senior is teasing Junior. Please." The Qi transformation cultivator hurriedly received the crystal stones and opened up a teleportation channel, respectfully inviting Xiao Hua to enter. Xiao Hua stepped into the teleportation channel and suddenly remembered something. He hurriedly asked, "Right, why did you ask this old man to go to the 6th floor?" "Oh, Junior thought that Senior and—" Before the Qi transformation cultivator finished speaking, the teleportation channel had already been activated. Xiao Hua felt a light flash in front of his eyes. His body first sank, then he saw monk Hong Qing standing in front of him with a smile on his face. Of course, at this time the kitten named Tyrannical Tiger was in his hand. Knowing that Hong Qing had already prepared the words for him, Xiao Hua was naturally too lazy to ask again. He looked left and right. On the passageway that was like a silver dragon, many cultivators walked out of the light circle. He asked, "Where is the Changlin Pavilion?" Seeing that Xiao Hua didn't ask, Hong Qing smiled and put away Tyrannical Tiger. He raised his hand and pointed at the winding silver path. "Where else could it be? Didn't you see? The cultivators of the 5th floor are all going there. Today seems to be the last day. I don't know if the spiritual route selection method can be used. If it can be used, I'm afraid this poor monk will buy it at all costs." As he spoke, Hong Qing's small eyes turned and looked at Xiao Hua again. Seeing this, Xiao Hua hurriedly dodged and looked around. Forget it, whatever spiritual root has nothing to do with this Xiao. This Xiao will go look elsewhere. Fellow Taoist, look at you. Hong Qing hurriedly smiled and said, what do you think this poor monk is? This poor monk just wants to get some rations for tyrannical tiger, why do you take it seriously? This spiritual root selection method is still unclear of its use to this poor monk. This poor monk just wants to help fellow Taoist because fellow Taoist looks kind. It is said that the jade slip costs 10 top-grade crystal stones. I was thinking that if fellow Taoist doesn't have enough, this poor monk can gather a few top-grade crystal stones. When the time comes, you can just let this poor monk take a look. Forget it. Xiao Hua waved his hand indifferently and said, this Xiao doesn't plan to buy it. I don't need fellow Taoist's help. Finished speaking, Xiao Hua followed the two cultivators who had just come out of the transmission channel and walked towards the end of the silver path. Hong Qing didn't give up, but instead walked behind Xiao Hua and persuaded in a low voice, fellow Taoist Xiao, it's only 10 top-grade crystal stones. You are a very famous cultivator in the Defeat Valley Immortal Union, how could you not have? Along the way, Hong Qing was like an abandoned village woman, chattering endlessly in Xiao Hua's ear. It seemed that if Xiao Hua didn't bid for the method of selecting spiritual roots and let him see it, he would definitely not give up. In the end, Xiao Hua simply closed his eyes and listened, moving forward with more and more cultivators. Not until he reached the end of the silver path, in the space on Xiao Hua's left hand, a splash ink painting of a pavilion swayed in the mountain wind. On the painting, the three words Changlin Pavilion flashed with golden light. Seeing the cultivator in front of him walk into the picture, Xiao Hua also walked over. Seeing the splash ink picture collide with his body, a layer of light rippled like the surface of a lake. Xiao Hua was already in front of a tall pavilion. This pavilion had 3 floors and was green in color. From the outside, it looked as if the entire pavilion was made of bamboo. However, the color of the bamboo was pure, and it looked more sparkling and translucent than jade. It was obviously not bamboo outside of Tong Lake City. Xiao Hua had just revealed himself when he saw that many cultivators had already gathered in front of him. Although the space array inside the Changlin Pavilion had already been activated, it still looked crowded. When Xiao Hua turned on his listening device, a wave of noisy discussions fell into his ears. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all forms of support. I wish all fellow Taoists a happy Zongzi festival. One more update. Chapter 4933. I heard that the cultivators of the Guangqing Immortal Alliance spent a lot of effort and sacrificed hundreds of their disciples to obtain the spiritual root selection method. I wonder if it's useful? It should be useful. After all, it's not the first time that Xinming's disciples came to Tong Lake City. They came here half a year ago, but not many people believed them. They sold some and went to the 9-Cloud Ridge. I heard that no one believed them at first, but suddenly, the Tao Alliance announced that the Tao Alliance had publicized the spiritual root selection method to the entire Tao Alliance. That's why their spiritual root technique became popular. Since the Tao Alliance has publicized it, why are they still selling it at such a high price? 10 supreme-grade crystals can be used to buy a magic weapon. The problem is that the Tao Alliance only publicized it to the 81 Immortal Alliances. They didn't publicize it to the Heaven Alliance. Moreover, just a few years ago before the news came, the security of the sacrificial abyss suddenly became tight. It was impossible for a cultivation method to be passed down from there. Xinming Jiao got it early and paid a huge price. How could they not let him earn more crystal stones? It's a pity. I heard that the Tao Alliance has some cultivation methods for spiritual roots that have reached the Golden Core realm. However, Xinming only has the spiritual root selection method. It's really a fly in the ointment. Don't be greedy. It's good enough that they have the spiritual root selection method to find suitable disciples and pass down our orthodoxy. It's a pity that we don't know if this spiritual root selection method is suitable for us primordial spirit cultivators. I really don't know. I heard that Xinming sent this cultivation method to the leader of the Heaven Alliance, but there hasn't been a reply. However, it's a cultivation method of the Tao Alliance. Maybe it's useless to the Heaven Alliance? Unfortunately, before Xiao Hua could listen to more, Hong Qing came closer and persuaded, Taoist Xiao, it's just 10 supreme-grade crystals. Xiao Hua was annoyed. He waved his hand and said, if I bid, I'll let you have a look. Don't talk nonsense. Haha, I knew it. Taoist Xiao is a generous person. Come, I've been to the Changlin Pavilion before. Let's go this way. There will be many people bidding later. I'm afraid it's not convenient to stand outside. Hong Qing was delighted and hurriedly pointed inside. All right. Xiaohua nodded. I'll go in and take a look, dang. Just as Xiaohua took a dozen or so steps, a sound similar to a large yellow bell rang out from within the Changlin Pavilion. The pillars of the entire Changlin Pavilion suddenly fluttered like pythons and rapidly fell into the void. In just a moment, light and shadow overlapped. Xiaohua, Hong Qing, and the cultivators who were discussing outside the Changlin Pavilion just now were all inside a pavilion that was several mu in size. This pavilion was suffused with a green luster. Rings of bamboo were strung together and rotated around the inner walls of the pavilion. Wisps of bamboo fragrance wafted out from within. Fellow Taoists. Dozens of bamboo grew out from the bottom of the pavilion and formed a bamboo platform in midair. One of the bamboo exploded and a few nascent soul cultivators flew out. The one in front was dressed in white. He looked around and cupped his hands. I'm Huan Swan from Tong Lake City. I'm here on the orders of the city lord to assist Shenming School in auctioning the spiritual root selection method. I'd like to thank all fellow Taoists for your support. You're welcome. It was like an ordinary auction. It was unknown whether it was arranged in advance or there were cultivators who knew Huan Swan. Under the bamboo platform, a few cultivators had already raised their hands. As long as fellow Taoists can sell the jade slip to I at a cheaper price. Haha. Huan Swan laughed. If it were my Tong Lake City's jade slip, I'd give it all to you for free. Unfortunately, this jade slip is from Shenming School. Everything will have to listen to fellow Taoists from Shenming School. Haha, even if it's from Tong Lake City, you can't give it away for free. A cultivator laughed. Otherwise, the city lord will expel you from Tong Lake City. Damn it, for the sake of fellow Taoist satisfaction. So what if I'm expelled from Tong Lake City? Huan Swan replied righteously. Then Huan Swanzi said a few more words and raised his hand to pick up a jade slip. He said, I won't introduce the things in the jade slip. After all, everyone is here for the spiritual root selection method. Today, I'd like to introduce today's auction. When everyone heard this, they immediately had a bad feeling. One of the cultivators asked anxiously, Huan Swan, is there a change to today's auction? There aren't many changes. It's just that the starting price has changed to 10 supreme grade crystals. Each increment is 1 supreme grade crystal. There's no upper limit. Huan Swan replied with a smile. No way, this is too shady. A few cultivators were already shouting. Wasn't the starting price of 5 supreme grade crystals and each increment is 10 top grade crystals? Huan Swan looked at the silent cultivators beside him and shrugged. This is fellow Taoist Shenming sect's idea. I've also reported it to the city lord. After all, it's the last day. Everyone understands. Please forgive me. Who knows if the spiritual root selection method in the jade slip is real? Seeing the change in the auction rules, everyone was unhappy. Some of the cultivators were already nitpicking. That's right. None of the fellow Taoists have made a public announcement. Who knows if the spiritual root selection method is effective? What's a spiritual root? Fellow Taoists of Shenming sect, can you explain it? The Tao Alliance has locked down our Heaven Alliance so tightly. I don't believe that Shenming sect can get the spiritual root selection method from the Tao Alliance. For a moment, there were different opinions and the situation was a little out of control. Huan Swan seemed to be very experienced. At first he didn't say anything. After a round of discussion, he raised his hand and said, Fellow Taoists, don't be anxious. These questions should be answered by the fellow Taoists of Shenming sect. However, I can guarantee that the city lord has already seen this cultivation method. There's definitely no problem. After Huan Swan finished speaking, a middle-aged cultivator with sharp eyes beside him walked forward with a trace of displeasure on his face. He said, Everyone, I want to thank you. I'm a disciple of Shenming sect. To be honest, I don't know what this spiritual root is. Even the sect leader of Shenming sect doesn't know. However, I can also tell you that Shenming sect is a sect that cultivates nascent soul. Shenming sect has already started to use this secret technique to select disciples a few years ago. Although we don't have a suitable cultivation method at the moment, the disciples selected with spiritual roots can also cultivate ordinary cultivation methods. However, the speed is not much faster than ordinary disciples. It's not as obvious as the Tao Alliance. As for the matter of the Tao Alliance's lockdown, I can also clearly say that Shenming sect obtained the spiritual root selection method before the Tao Alliance sealed the heaven sacrificial abyss. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward. Chapter 49-34. How is that possible? Another cultivator who seemed to know something hurriedly shouted, "Before the Tao Alliance announced the spiritual root selection method, they had already sealed off the heaven sacrificial abyss. Your Shenming sect belongs to the Guangqing Immortal Alliance and is more than 1,000,000 miles away from the heaven sacrificial abyss. How could you have gotten it first?" This. The cultivator named Xiahan was a little hesitant. Cough cough. At this moment, a cough was heard from the bamboo platform. Another bamboo exploded and a familiar figure walked out from it. Wasn't that the disciple of the fallen immortal sect, Zhijun, who had mysteriously disappeared? Zhijun walked out of the bamboo and glanced at everyone. He said, "I will answer this question." However, Zhijun only said this sentence and was stunned on the spot. Xiao Hua was tall to begin with, and when he entered Changlin Pavilion under Hong Qing's eagerness, he walked closer to the front. Banished Lord's gaze swept over and easily found Xiao Hua. His gaze was now fixed on Xiao Hua, and his face was filled with disbelief. "Senior Zhang." Zhijun came to his senses and said 3 words. Then he suddenly pointed at Xiao Hua and shouted, "Quick, quick, he's a cultivator from the Tao Alliance. Huan Swansea, quick, quick, get the guards here." Tao Alliance cultivator? Huan Swansea was shocked at first. However, when he saw Xiao Hua, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Taoist, are you sure? Although this Taoist is a nascent soul cultivator, you can't just kill him with a stick and say that he's a cultivator from the Tao Alliance. Besides, aren't you a nascent soul cultivator too? My Heavenly Alliance." "Oh no, most of the Heavenly Alliance cultivators in the Changlin Pavilion are nascent soul cultivators, right?" Zhijun was a little panicked, as if he had stolen someone's things and was caught red-handed. He said hurriedly, "I'm not lying to you. Quick, report to the city lord, fellow cultivator Zhe." Master Huan Swan heard that Zhijun wanted to report this to the city lord and became even more unhappy. He said, "Take a closer look, this fellow cultivator is a nascent soul cultivator." Huan Swansea emphasized the words nascent soul cultivators. Now that the sacrificial abyss between the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance has been sealed by the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance, even body integration cultivators would find it difficult to fly over, let alone nascent soul cultivators. In addition, this is Tong Lake City. Do you think that the nascent soul cultivators of the Tao Alliance will be able to pass through the defenses of Tong Lake City and enter the Chang Forest Pavilion? Huan Swansea's last sentence was the most important. Banished Monarch had slandered a nascent soul cultivator as a Tao Alliance cultivator. He had unknowingly slapped Tong Lake City in the face. Although Master Huan Swan was displeased, some of the cultivators around Xiao Hua heard the words of the Banished Monarch and involuntarily stepped aside. Even Hong Qing took several steps back. Xiao Hua didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at Zhijun thoughtfully, as if he wanted to see through Zhijun's secret. The more Xiao Hua acted like this, the more afraid Zhijun became. He couldn't help but think of Xiao Hua's might when he defeated the Flying Shadow sect with a single roar. He couldn't help but cry out, "How could he be a nascent soul cultivator? When I saw him at the Nebula Ridge, he didn't have any cultivation at all. But this person with no cultivation at all was able to intimidate all the spirit beasts of the Flying Shadow sect with a single roar. Even the late nascent soul sect master fell from the sky with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices." Ah! Hearing this, Huan Swansea's expression finally changed, and Hong Qing even retreated a dozen steps with a thump thump thump. He even forgot to fly. Instead, the nearby cultivators all flew backwards, creating a space of 300 meters around Xiao Hua. At this point, Zhijun seemed to be unable to bear the contempt in Xiao Hua's eyes. He couldn't help but cry out, my spirit root selection method was created by him." Master Huan Swan's expression changed greatly when he heard this. His figure suddenly shot up into the sky and a bamboo joint shot out from his hand. He didn't need to rush to the top of the pavilion, but instead, he immediately disappeared into the void. Boom! A loud sound rang out. All the bamboo in the Changlin Pavilion immediately glowed with a dazzling green light. Then they roared and pounced toward Xiao Hua like giant pythons. At the same time, even more Tong Lake City guards appeared from various hiding places in the Changlin Pavilion. They activated their bodies and summoned their magic treasures, coordinating with the formation to attack Xiao Hua. Cough cough. Xiao Hua lightly coughed twice. He gently raised his hand and pointed at a spot in the array. Pa! Like glass shattering, the illusion of the array disappeared. The numerous giant pythons turned back into bamboo and fell to their original places. The frightening aura that filled the air also turned into smoke. Then Xiaohua waved his sleeve and blocked the guards that were charging at him. Only then did he leisurely say, "This old man only came to Tong Lake City to take a look. I didn't come here specifically to catch a thief like you who stole this old man's cultivation technique," Xiaohua said as he walked onto the bamboo platform. It was as if Master Huan Xuan and the other Tong Lake City disciples were nothing to him. "Senior, please spare my life. Senior, please spare my life." Zhijun saw that Xiaohua's strength was as vast as the sea and that he was walking towards him. How could he dare to say anything more? He didn't care about the thousands of Heavenly Alliance cultivators around him and hurriedly knelt down and begged. Master Huan Xuan was even more panicked. He wanted to resist but he didn't know how. Although Xiaohua didn't deliberately release his aura was like a giant mountain making him breathless. What exactly happened? Xiaohua walked onto the bamboo platform and lowered his head to look at Zhijun who was kowtowing. Beside Zhijun, a few disciples of Shinming sect also knelt down. After all, stealing other people's cultivation methods was a serious crime in Taoism. If they were discovered, their lives would be in danger. Zhijun didn't dare to delay and hurriedly told the story. However, he didn't make it too clear in his panic. Xiaohua frowned and asked softly, "I understand now. You're a disciple of Shinming sect. The Heavenly Alliance deliberately let you join the Fallen Immortal sect. That day you were supposed to return to the Fallen Immortal sect from Xingyun Ridge. However, because you saw the spiritual root selection method, you contacted the Heavenly Alliance disciples on the spur of the moment and returned to the Heavenly Alliance? What about the 10 disciples of the Fallen Immortal sect that you selected?" "Senior, please no." Zhijun didn't dare to delay and hurriedly reported the details. "I knew that the Chanhe sect had obtained the remains of Royal Dome's spiritual master and the heavenly cycle demon subduing star formation. I already had a plan. I planned to take these things and return to the Heavenly Alliance directly. After all, the relics of a Mahayana cultivator who went through the heavenly tribulation are of great use to my Shinming sect. As for the 10 disciples of the Fallen Immortal sect, they were all disciples of Shinming sect like me. They returned to the Heavenly Alliance with me. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Chidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward. And Chapter 4935. Is what he said true? Xiaohua turned to look at the other Shinming school disciple, and his eyes flashed with some illusions. That nascent soul disciple only felt his vision blur, and answered somewhat sluggishly, "Senior, you know, when Senior Brother Zhe returned, he did indeed bring some disciples, but as for how many there were, and whether they were disciples of the fallen celestial sect, I'm not too sure." Xiaohua withdrew his illusion and looked at the banished king. His tone was gentle as he said, "You can wait for me." Yes, thank you for your forgiveness, Senior." Exiled Monarch and the others were overjoyed when they heard this. They hurriedly expressed their gratitude and stood up. Xiaohua looked at the overjoyed Zhijun and sighed in his heart. Of course, he liked Zhijun's persistence in the Star Cloud Ridge. However, he didn't expect Zhijun to be a spy from the Heavenly Alliance. However, he smiled again after a while. Tao Alliance and Heavenly Alliance, was there any difference in his eyes? "Oh, that's right. I heard that the spirit root selection method has already been popularized in the Tao Alliance. What's going on?" Xiaohua recalled what Hongqing had just said and asked again. Before the exiled monarch could speak, Huan Xuanzi hurriedly bowed and said, "Senior, this junior is aware of this matter. Okay, you say it." Xiaohua knew that Tong Lake City was well informed and must know more than Shinming cult, so he nodded and instructed. After Master Huan Xuan explained everything that had happened during the Tao Alliance's alliance meeting, including how the Tao Alliance had distributed the Qi refinement, foundation establishment and golden core cultivation techniques to the various immortal alliances, as well as the sealing of the sacrificial abyss, he carefully looked at Xiaohua. "Ah, the Tao Alliance is far too stingy." Xiaohua smiled faintly and said, "However, old man Gu Qiong and Reverend Ji Yen have good taste." When they heard Xiaohua say that the alliance was stingy, both Fallen Monarch and Fantasy Swansea were shocked. Of course, they were able to obtain a certain amount of information, but the secret of Xiaohua's origins, they were still unclear. Also, banished monarch. Xiaohua continued, "You obtained this spiritual root selection method effortlessly, so why are you selling it at such a high price? Moreover, you even want to bid for it today. This doesn't seem like the righteousness you showed on Nebula Ridge." This banished prince couldn't say that this was the idea of the head of Shinming cult. He could only mutter a few words and didn't dare to refute. "Illusion operator." Xiaohua instructed, "You can start selling one jade slip, one top-grade crystal. Actually, according to Xiaohua's thoughts, it was fine for everyone to give it to him for free. But on second thought, would she cherish something that was given to her for free? For no reason people would think that it was a fake. It would be better if it was a bit more expensive. Okay. Huan Xuanzi agreed, but he looked at Banished King as if he was hesitant. Banished King wished he could slap Huan Xuanzi to death. He hurriedly shouted, "Fellow Taoist, Senior Zhang has already said that this spiritual root selection method costs one supreme-grade crystal, so today's auction will not be held. If any fellow Taoist needs it, feel free to come and hand it over." Although the Banished King had already spoken, the cultivators in the Changlin Pavilion still did not dare to act rashly in the face of Xiaohua. The might of Xiaohua's sleeve was truly terrifying. Seeing the awkward situation, Master Huan Xuan began to sweat. At this moment, a cultivator mustered up his courage and asked, "Say, Senior, since this method of selecting spiritual roots was created by you, would it be useful for us disciples who cultivate nascent divinity?" "Of course," Xiaohua said with a smile. "No matter if our Tao sect cultivates nascent divinity or nascent soul, it is all due to the spiritual qi of heaven and earth entering the body. Now that the spiritual qi of heaven and earth has changed, the previous method of selecting disciples is ineffective. This spiritual root is the proof for ordinary children to set foot on the immortal Tao." Great. That cultivator was overjoyed and hurriedly wanted to take out the crystal to trade. However, another cultivator beside him mustered up his courage and asked, "But Senior, since they both draw in spiritual qi of heaven and earth into the body, why is the Tao Alliance and Heaven Alliance's method of selecting disciples different? Moreover, I heard that Xinming cult has already sent this method to our Heaven Alliance's Alliance Master. Why didn't he say anything?" Xiaohua shrugged and said, "I haven't seen the Tao Alliance and Heaven Alliance's method of selecting disciples, so I'm not sure why it's different. As for your last question, you should ask your Heaven Alliance's Alliance Master." Ha. Xiaohua's words made everyone laugh, and their previous nervousness disappeared by more than half. Senior. Master Huan Xuan saw this and hurriedly took out 2 jade slips from his storage ring and respectfully presented them. He said, "This is the method of selecting disciples who cultivate nascent soul and nascent divinity. Senior, please take a look." "Damn it, I was just casually speaking. If I couldn't see through it, wouldn't I lose face?" Xiaohua laughed and scolded, but he still took the 2 jade slips. Seeing that Xiaohua was so approachable, Master Huan Xuan was relieved and stood respectfully at the side. Xiaohua looked at the 2 jade slips and casually returned them to Master Huan Xuan. He said to everyone, "Humans have 3 spirits: essence, energy, and spirit. Essence is the foundation and spirit is the root. The Tao Alliance cultivates nascent soul and focuses on qi. The Heaven Alliance cultivates nascent divinity and focuses on essence. Therefore, the method of selecting disciples is biased. However, the spiritual roots focus on spirit. It can cover the path of essence, so the spiritual roots are suitable for the selection of nascent soul and nascent divinity disciples." "Thank you, Senior Zhang." The cultivator who was the first to arrive was already impatient. After hearing this, he hurriedly took out a top-grade crystal and wanted to hand it over to Master Huan Xuan. "I also want." For a moment, all the cultivators crazily fought over it. Seeing this, Master Huan Xuan was really flustered. How could they know that Xiaohua would appear? They thought that the rarer something was, the more valuable it was. They only prepared dozens of jade slips and waited for the cultivators to bid. How could these jade slips satisfy hundreds of cultivators? "I have." Xiaohua looked at the embarrassment of exiled monarch and Master Huan Xuan and took out more than 1,000 jade slips. Yes, Senior is thoughtful." At this moment, Master Huan Xuan didn't dare to say that Xiaohua was stealing their business. He took the jade slips and hurriedly handed them over to the cultivators. Xiaohua looked at Hongqing, who couldn't squeeze in, and threw a jade slip in front of him. He smiled and said, "Hongqing, this is a gift from me." Hongqing was overjoyed. He took the jade slip and carefully hid it. He shouted, "Thank you, Taoist Xiao." After an incense stick's time, all the cultivators got the jade slips of the spiritual root selection method. However, Master Huan Xuan didn't have a single jade slip in front of him. Obviously, some cultivators bought more than one and wanted to bring it back to others. Master Huan Xuan took the storage ring with more than 1,000 top-grade crystals and respectfully handed it to Xiaohua. "Senior, these are your crystals. Please take a look. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward. thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 49-36. Okay. Xiao Hua took the storage ring and took out hundreds of crystals from it, placing them in front of the banished king. This is what Xinming taught me. The banished king was extremely embarrassed. He smiled apologetically. This cultivation method is senior's, junior doesn't dare to take these crystals. Just take it when I tell you to, Xiao Hua said indifferently. However, in the future when you sell it, it must be one top-grade crystal, no more. Yes, yes. The banished king was somewhat confused, but he still hurriedly took the crystals. Since the spiritual root selection method had been sold out, the cultivators who entered the Changlin Pavilion should have left. However, none of the thousands of cultivators left. They all held their breaths and looked at Xiao Hua with rapt attention, as if they were expecting something. Strangely, every cultivator kept their mouths shut, not daring to open their mouths. Seeing this, Huan Xuan was somewhat helpless. He looked at the banished king and gave him a look. The banished king's mouth was bitter. He thought for a moment and said, Senior Zhang, Junior thanks Senior for giving the spiritual root selection method to the Heaven Alliance. However, Senior should also know that it's not enough to just have the spiritual root selection method without the spiritual root cultivation method. Junior heard that the Dao Alliance already has the cultivation method for Golden Core disciples. I wonder if Senior can give this spiritual root selection method to the Golden Core disciples. At this point, the banished king didn't dare to say anything more. He looked at Xiao Hua with a kind of pleading look. Oh, is that so? Xiao Hua slapped his forehead and said, this old man actually forgot about this. This old man has a set of cultivation methods suitable for spiritual roots to cultivate. It ranges from qi refining to great ascension. Who wants it? Everyone was silent. No one agreed and no one dared to breathe a sigh of relief. The banished king only wanted a cultivation method to cultivate the golden core, but the cultivator in front of him, who seemed to only have the strength of nascent soul, actually took out a cultivation method to cultivate to Mahayana. Not to mention that this kind of magnanimity stunned everyone, but in their ears these words sounded like a lie. Really? After a while, the banished king came back to his senses and shouted, Senior, this cultivation method, how many crystals do you want? As soon as he finished speaking, the banished king immediately regretted his words. He hurriedly corrected himself and said, Senior, this junior knows his mistake. If you need anything, please tell me, Senior. Illusory Swansea came to his senses a little too late and hurriedly called out, Senior, you can tell this junior whatever you need. Tong Lake City will definitely satisfy all of your requests. The exiled monarch and Huan Swansea opened their mouths. The cultivators below the bamboo platform were unable to open their mouths. At this moment, it was no longer a question of whether they believed Xiao Hua or not. Instead, it was a question of whether they dared to take this cultivation method or not. Call your city lord over. Xiao Hua looked at Huan Swansea and ordered, I'm afraid you can't make the decision. Yes, this junior will go and ask for the city lord's help. Actually, when Xiao Hua was blocking the attack of the Changlin Pavilion's formation, Huan Swansea had already seen the disciples of Tong Lake City fleeing in panic. They must have gone to ask for help, but for some reason the city lord still hadn't come. Huan Swansea quickly replied with a smile. Seeing that Huan Swansea had left, Xiao Hua looked at the cultivators on the left and said, I can't give you cultivation methods that can directly cultivate to the Mahayana stage. Otherwise, once you leave the Changlin Pavilion, you will be hunted down by the disciples of Tong Lake City. How about this? This old man has a cultivation method jade slip that can cultivate to the late stage of the spirit severing stage. Each jade slip costs 30 top-grade crystal stones. Who dares to take it? 30? 30 top-grade crystal stones? The group of nascent soul cultivators were dumbfounded. They didn't expect that such a precious cultivation method would actually only cost 30 top-grade crystal stones. Senior. Suddenly, a cultivator who was concealing his cultivation base and his true appearance shouted loudly, this junior needs a cultivation method that can cultivate to the late stage of the void refinement stage. Senior, can you sell it to me? Of course you can. Every cultivation base increases by 10 top-grade crystal stones. Xiao Hua said with a smile and took out another jade slip. Damn it, I'll do it. That cultivator who was concealing his true appearance cursed in a low voice, before flying in front of Xiao Hua and respectfully handing over a storage ring to Xiao Hua. Senior, this is the thing that this junior wants to bid for the spiritual root selection method. This junior didn't expect to actually be able to obtain a cultivation method for spiritual roots. This thing is all given to Senior. Xiaohua took the storage ring and handed the jade slip to the cultivator, saying, "You first check if it's real or not." After leaving the Changlin pavilion, this old man won't admit it. That cultivator was a little embarrassed, but he began to use his divine sense to check it. After a moment, that cultivator said with ecstasy, "Thank you, senior, thank you, senior." After saying that, that cultivator didn't stay for a moment and rushed out of the Changlin pavilion. "Senior." There were already cultivators rushing over and shouting. "This junior wants a cultivation method that can cultivate to the late stage of the nascent soul stage." Xiaohua raised his hand and took out some jade slips, saying, "This is a nascent soul cultivation method. Help this old man sell it." "Yes, this junior understands." Fei Jun hurriedly took it and then said to some other disciples, "You all quickly come and help Senior Zhang." Xiaohua also gave some other jade slips to the disciples of Shenming's sect. They were cultivation methods that could cultivate to the spirit severing stage, void refinement stage, and unification stage. Senior. Hong Qing was a cultivator who was somewhat familiar with Xiaohua. Although he was afraid in his heart, he also knew that Xiaohua wasn't as strict as everyone thought. He gathered his courage and went forward with a smile. "Senior, you are a little biased. How come all the cultivation methods can be used by nascent soul cultivators? Cultivators like us who cultivate primordial spirit are also Tao cultivators. Senior, you can't favor one and discriminate against the other. This old man is a nascent soul cultivator." Xiaohua looked at the fat monk angrily and said, "So this old man has so many cultivation methods. What about it? You're not satisfied?" No. Hong Qing hurriedly smiled and said, "This junior doesn't dare. This junior just wants to see if senior still has any cultivation methods for primordial spirit. How many top-grade crystal stones do you have?" Xiaohua rolled his eyes and said, "You can't even afford to raise a tyrannical tiger, and you still want to buy cultivation methods? This junior only has 10 top-grade crystal stones." Hong Qing took out 10 top-grade crystal stones and said, "I originally wanted to buy the method of selecting spiritual root today. If senior thinks it's too little, then I'll sell the tyrannical tiger to senior." With that, Hong Qing waved his big sleeve and took out the tyrannical tiger. Who knew that the tyrannical tiger seemed to have heard something? As soon as it came out of the sleeve, it immediately hugged Hong Qing's thigh with its 4 hooves, and its tail wrapped around Hong Qing's calf. Its pair of eyes looked at Xiaohua pitifully as if it was begging. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote a monthly vote, vote a recommendation vote, collect a gift, and thank you for all kinds of support. Chapter 4937. Needless to say, Xiaohua's cultivation methods were naturally modified during the years when Demon Venerable Shi refined the blood evil spiritual pearl. After modifying the nascent soul cultivation method, Xiaohua also thought of the Heavenly Alliance cultivators who cultivated the nascent soul. He had obtained the nascent soul cultivation method in the upper realm and even comprehended it while cultivating. Therefore, although modifying the nascent soul cultivation method was more difficult than modifying the nascent soul cultivation method, Xiaohua had modified it to the early stage of the return to void realm in these years. Only the void refinement and Tao integration realms were not considered to be perfect, so he did not modify it. At this moment, Xiaohua saw the group of cultivators who modified the nascent soul looking at him pitifully like the tyrant tiger, and he unconsciously made a decision. Damn it, why is this spirit beast the same as Hong Qing? Xiaohua knew that this tyrant tiger was putting on an act, but he really liked this kind of spirit beast and this kind of cultivator who was close to being a scoundrel. He cursed in his heart, then took out a jade slip and threw it to Hong Qing. "Take it, why aren't you leaving?" Yes, thank you, senior." Hong Qing took the jade slip, turned around and left without even looking at it, and did not even leave a piece of low-grade crystal. Senior. Seeing that Hong Qing got a bargain, a nearby cultivator who cultivated the nascent soul hurriedly shouted, "I need the return to void refinement cultivation method. 50 top-grade crystals." Xiaohua said without hesitation, "Don't think it's too much. It's too difficult to modify the nascent soul cultivation method." Yes, I can't ask for more. How dare I say no? The cultivator did not dare to say anything and hurriedly offered the crystals. Xiaohua rolled up his sleeves and took the crystals, then threw a jade slip to the cultivator. This cultivator was not like Hong Qing. He took the jade slip and studied it carefully. After a few breaths, the cultivator's expression changed greatly. He looked left and right and hurriedly put the jade slip away. Then he turned into a gust of wind and left. This time no cultivator hesitated and they all shouted, "Senior, I also want," Xiaohua shouted, Those who need Qi refining, spirit restoring, and void restoring. These 4 types of cultivation methods, divide them into 4 groups. For each higher realm you'll get 20 top-grade crystals. Take 1 cultivator from each group and give them to me. Before Xiao Hua could finish speaking, 4 cultivators of various realms raised their hands and said, "Fellow Taoists, quickly!" As a result, the remaining cultivators who cultivated their nascent soul immediately gathered around the 4 cultivators like flies that had smelled meat, and each of them took out their crystals. Describing these cultivators as flies was naturally a bit despicable, but looking at their hurried and anxious appearance, it was true. The reason why they were in such a hurry was naturally because they wanted to obtain the cultivation technique as soon as possible so that they could leave Tong Lake City as soon as possible and escape from Tong Lake City's sphere of influence. This was because they were afraid of Tong Lake City's city lord, Reverend Emerald Lake. Even they knew the value of these cultivation methods to the Heavenly Alliance. How could the Azure Lake Sage not know? Xiao Hua might not be afraid of the Azure Lake Sage, but they were afraid that if the Azure Lake Sage had any other thoughts, they might die without a burial place. While everyone was scrambling for the cultivation method in the Changlin Pavilion, Huan Xuan had already reached the 9th floor through the transmission formation in Tong Lake City. When he showed his token and arrived at a hall that looked like a mountain rock floating in the clear water, he was so angry that his nose was almost crooked. This was because a few Tong Lake City disciples who had escaped from the Changlin Pavilion were guarding in front of the hall. It seemed that they did not inform the Azure Lake Sage at all. Damn it! Huan Xuan arrived on the waves and scolded, "Why did you escape? Why didn't you die in the Changlin Pavilion? I asked you to inform the city lord. Why hasn't the city lord seen him yet?" Without waiting for Huan Xuan to finish, the disciple said with a long face, "Sir, it's not that we don't want to inform him, but the city lord has completely sealed off the Lake Heart Hall. We can't inform him." Damn it. If that's the case, why don't you? Master Huan Xuan was still angry and wanted to curse. However, he shut his mouth after cursing halfway. Since Master Bihu had sealed off the Lake Heart Hall and there were no guards nearby, it meant that there was an extremely important guest visiting. Not to mention the fact that these disciples couldn't report it, even he couldn't report it. Thinking of this, Huan Xuan could not help sweating again. Therefore Huan Xuan gritted his teeth and flew up the stairs. However, before he could get close, a cold and gentle force blocked him. No matter how he activated his magic power, he could not get close at all. Huan Xuan waved his hand and took out a flying shuttle. He opened his mouth and poured a mouthful of essence blood into the flying shuttle. Then, he made a gesture and the flying shuttle rushed into the Lake Heart Hall like an elite guard. "Sir." The disciple beside him said in a low voice, "This is an emergency communication Dharma artifact that the city lord personally gave us. We can only use it as a last resort. Sir, why are you using it now? Aren't you afraid that the city lord will blame you?" "Sigh, if the city lord blames me, I can only bear it." Huan Xuan smiled bitterly. "You don't understand what this senior Zhang Xiaohua means to the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance. If I hadn't seen the message from the Tao Alliance, I wouldn't have dared to be so reckless." This is so serious." The disciples were dumbfounded. They did not know much. In their eyes, there were not many people in the world who could be more powerful than the Azure Lake Sage. Huan Xuan ignored their surprise and continued speaking as if he wanted to reduce the pressure. "If I don't send out the communication Dharma artifact now and Senior Zhang is missing when the city lord comes out, none of us will be able to bear the consequences if the city lord blames us. Rather than that, why don't we risk being punished by the city lord and send out the message first?" As he was speaking, there was a soft swoosh, and a water current rolled up from the rock. The water current flowed down from the stairs and landed in front of Huan Xuan and the disciples. Huan Xuan did not greet the disciples and jumped onto the water current. The water current carried him against the current and into the Lake Heart Palace. The remaining disciples looked at each other and moved their gazes away from the water current. The water current dried up again in a moment. Huan Xuan followed the water current and passed through the soft restriction. As the water current flashed, they arrived in a large palace. This palace was different from ordinary palaces. It looked like an island with beautiful scenery. The floor of the palace was clearly a vast ocean. Looking up, on this lush island, there were thousands of vines that shot up into the sky like horned dragons. They intertwined with pythons above the island and formed a very primitive vine pavilion. The various green leaves on the vines swayed in the salty sea breeze. The sound of the waves and the swaying of the vines entered Huan Xuan's ears. Vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it and give it a tip. Chapter 49-38. Master Huan Xuan was already familiar with this strange scene. He urged the waves under his feet and flew toward the vine pavilion like lightning. Before he could get close, he heard a slightly high-pitched voice. "Esteemed Master Bihu, I'll leave the matter of the magnetism to your Tong Lake City. Once the person succeeds, I'll tell my ancestral teacher and ask him to personally come to Tong Lake City." Who's that? How can he be so arrogant? When Huan Xuanzi heard this voice directly address the city lord as "Esteemed Master Bihu," he couldn't help but feel slightly shocked. He thought to himself. Then a faint voice sounded. "It's my dream to be able to serve Senior Kong. There's no need to thank him. I wouldn't dare to ask him to personally come to Tong Lake City. Come, let me toast fellow Kong." "All right, please." The voice answered with satisfaction. "Master Huan Xuan." Master Huan Xuan flew closer and saw the two people sitting in the vine pavilion. Before he could see the appearance of the cultivator in a five-colored robe sitting opposite esteemed Master Bihu, Master Huan Xuan's extremely displeased voice sounded. "Can't you see that I'm receiving an important guest in the Lake Heart Hall? Why didn't you send any urgent messages?" "Esteemed City Lord." Master Huan Xuan didn't dare to get close. He stopped in the jade waves and hurriedly answered, "I have an urgent matter to report to esteemed City Lord." "Speak." Esteemed Master Bihu said impatiently. Master Huan Xuan hesitated. In just an instant, esteemed Master Bihu scolded, "Damn thing, this is Senior Kong Jing from the Peacock Mountain Manor. What can Tong Lake City hide from the Peacock Mountain Manor?" "Peacock Mountain Manor?" Huan Xuanzi opened his mouth in shock. He wanted to say something but he stopped. After thinking for a while, he said, "All right, City Lord, you should know that Senior Zhang Xiaohua is currently in my Tong Lake City's Changlin Pavilion. Do you want to go and meet him?" "Zhang Xiaohua?" Esteemed Master Bihu was confused. He frowned and said, "Who's Zhang Xiaohua? How come I don't remember? He came to Tong Lake City, and you want me to meet him?" As he spoke, Master Bihu even glanced at Kong Jing and said with a smile, "Don't you think so, Taoist Kong?" That's right. Who knows who this Zhang Xiaohua is?" Kong Jing chimed in with a smile. Huan Xuanzi's back was drenched in sweat as he hurriedly whispered, "City Lord, don't you remember? The Tao Alliance, the one who created the spirit root selection technique." Before Huan Xuanzi could finish, Master Bihu flew out of the pavilion with a whoosh. His face was filled with inexplicable excitement as he exclaimed, "Huan Xuanzi, are you telling the truth? Of course it's real." Huan Xuan hurriedly explained, "Senior Zhang is selling complete nascent soul cultivation techniques that can be cultivated to the Mahayana stage in the Changlin Pavilion. Damn it, why didn't you say so earlier?" Master Bihu raised his hand as if to slap Huan Xuanzi. However, just as he raised his hand, he put it down again as if he had remembered that he had sealed the Lake Heart Hall. At this moment, Master Bihu seemed to have thought of something. His body swayed and he landed in the pavilion. He cupped his hands and said, "Taoist Kong, I have some city affairs to deal with. Why don't you? You're welcome." Kong Jing had already stood up and said lightly, "I've heard it. However, as far as I know, Zhang Xiaohua has already died in the blood fiend demonic formation of the demon clan. How could he appear in Tong Lake City?" "Zhang Xiaohua has died?" Master Bihu was even more shocked. "Why didn't I know?" However, after he finished speaking, he looked at Kong Jing and smiled apologetically, Yes. Although I'm in charge of Tong Lake City, I'm not in the Heaven Alliance. I'm sure the Heaven Alliance has more detailed information." Even the ordinary alliance leader of the Heaven Alliance. "I'm afraid he doesn't know about this." Kong Jing said proudly, "I've only heard about this from my Grandmaster occasionally." Master Bihu was more convinced after hearing this. He glared at Huan Xuanzi with anger. Huan Xuanzi was also surprised and did not dare to say anything. Master Bihu hurriedly smiled apologetically and said, "I'm a little ignorant. Taoist Kong, please enlighten me. Actually, it's nothing much." Kong Jing kept him in suspense. She paused for a moment and continued, "According to my Grandmaster, Zhang Xiaohua was invited by a family in the Tao Alliance to teach them how to select spiritual roots. In the end, the family leader was possessed by the demon clan. The demon clan set up a blood fiend demonic formation in the family. Not only did they kill Zhang Xiaohua but they also sacrificed the entire family." "Oh my!" Master Bihu was shocked. How could the demon clan be so powerful? They even wanted to possess the family leader of an immortal cultivator family? "That's right." Kong Jing sighed. "The spirit chi of heaven and earth has changed. The immortal world gate has closed. Every Taoist cultivator is in danger. The demon clan is rampant in this world. Oh, that's right. Huan Xuanzi suddenly exclaimed. City Lord, I remember now. That Shinming cult's banished lord is also in the Changlin Pavilion. He recognized Zhang Xiaohua. I don't think it's fake. Banished lord? Shinming cult spy in the Dao Alliance? Master Bihu was startled. How did he recognize Zhang Xiaohua? City Lord. Huan Xuanzi hurriedly reminded him. Didn't a jade slip mention this before? The sect that banished lord is a spy is called the Fallen Immortal Sect. The Fallen Immortal Sect. That's right. This banished lord obtained the spiritual root selection method from the Dao Alliance. He saw Zhang Xiaohua before. The city lord couldn't stand it anymore. He hurriedly nodded and said, Zhang Xiaohua is now the most respected Taoist cultivator of the Dao Alliance. She has become the Dao Alliance's savior. Maybe she has a way to escape from the blood fiend demonic array. That's impossible. Kong Jing still didn't believe it. That day, Elder Gu Qiong and Ji Yanjinren went to that family and saw Zhang Xiaohua being sacrificially refined with their own eyes. Haha, Taoist Kong, please wait here for a moment. Master Bihu said with a smile. I'll be right back. I'll go with you. Kong Jing said proudly, since I'm here, I can't let you be fooled. That's great. Master Bihu was overjoyed. He raised his hand and said, Taoist Kong, please. Xiaohua naturally didn't know that the news of his death had spread to the Heavenly Alliance. After dealing with the cultivators of the Heavenly Alliance with the cultivation technique of the Essence Soul, he looked to the side and saw that the disciples of the Shinming cult had also sent away the cultivators of the Nascent Soul realm. Banished Lord respectfully handed 2 storage rings to Xiaohua with both hands and said, These are the crystals that were just sold. They are, P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it and give it a tip. Thank you to Blossoming Blossom, Withering Flower, Sword, Chuan Tong, and other fellow Taoists for their tips. Thank you for your support. I'll add a small chapter first. Next week, 6,000 words will be restored. In addition, I really want to add more chapters. Unfortunately, this book is coming to an end, and I think it's better to finish it with a perfect ending. Thank you again. Chapter 49-39. Hehe, you don't have to say any more. Xiaohua took the storage ring and said, Since I asked you to help me, I naturally trust you. Thank you, Senior. Seeing that there was no one around, Exiled King said sincerely, I didn't expect you to be so magnanimous. Xiaohua kept the storage ring and suddenly asked, There were too many people just now, so I didn't ask you specifically. I heard you said that you brought more than 10 disciples out of the Fallen Immortal Sect and only brought back 9. Where are the other disciples? Oh, so you wanted to ask about this. Exiled King said with a smile, Since I came out of the Fallen Immortal Sect, I naturally couldn't bring all the disciples of the Heavenly Alliance. I had to bring some real disciples of the Fallen Immortal Sect as a cover. According to my plan, after I obtained the remains of the Royal Dome Spiritual Master and the Heavenly Cycle Demon subduing star formation, I would send the real disciples of the Fallen Immortal Sect back to report. However, because of the appearance of Deputy Hall Master Huang Su, I was the one who sent the message, so I picked out all the disciples of the Heavenly Alliance. Senior, don't worry. I grew up with the disciples of the Fallen Immortal Sect since I was young. I won't attack them easily. That's good. Xiaohua nodded and took out a few jade slips from his chest. He handed them to Exiled King and said, I'm very pleased that you are so kind. This is for you. This is. Exiled King was puzzled but still took them. However, when he looked at them with his divine thought, his expression changed greatly. However, just as his expression changed, he hurriedly looked at the other disciples of the Shinming sect. The other disciples were afraid of Xiaohua and didn't know what Xiaohua had asked Exiled King, so they didn't dare to come closer and stayed a little far away. Xiaohua said with a smile, This is a spirit separation technique that I left for you. Consider it as your reward. Yes, thank you, Senior Zhang. Exiled King hurriedly kept it and looked to the left and said, Can you copy this technique for my senior and junior brothers? Xiaohua understood and nodded, Of course. The disciples were overjoyed and bowed to express their gratitude. Thank you, Senior Zhang. This Tong Lake City Lord seems to be very arrogant. Xiaohua looked at the empty Changlin Pavilion and said curiously, Forget it, this old man won't wait anymore. Senior, don't be anxious. We'll go and take a look. A few disciples hurriedly said as they flew out of the Changlin Pavilion. At this moment, Xiao Hua sent a voice transmission to Exiled Monarch. Exiled Monarch, do you know how to deal with this set of nascent soul cultivation techniques and 2 sets of nascent soul cultivation techniques? The banished king did not dare to speak carelessly. He sent a telepathic message in a low voice, Junior, please instruct me. I'll give you a primal soul cultivation technique and a nascent soul cultivation technique. Xiao Hua laughed. As for the other nascent soul cultivation technique, you have to think of a way to give it to the Dao Alliance. Zhijun smiled wryly and said, Senior Zhang, you think too highly of me. How can I meet the leader of the Heavenly Alliance? Of course, this junior will give these 2 jade slips to my sect master. Sect master should be able to offer them to Lord Alliance leader. But the Dao Alliance? I definitely won't be able to do it. Don't worry. Xiao Hua laughed. This old man has already recorded my intentions in the jade slips. You only need to offer these 3 jade slips to the Heavenly Alliance. Then this junior understands. The banished king felt that his burden had been greatly lightened and hurriedly replied. Just as they were talking, the Changlin Pavilion's array emitted a terrifying buzzing sound again. The surrounding bamboo joints transformed into pythons that danced in the air. Each and every one of them roared as they pounced outside the pavilion. The entire Changlin Pavilion shone brightly, and 2 figures appeared in front of the hundreds of pythons' bamboo joints. The person in front was Master Bihu, who was dressed in a lake blue robe. As soon as he entered, his gaze was like lightning as he looked at Xiao Hua. Kong Jing, who was behind him, released her divine sense and scanned the entire Changlin Pavilion. This is fellow Daoist Zhang Xiaohua? Master Bihu was slightly surprised when he saw that Xiaohua was only in the nascent soul realm. Fellow Daoist, are you the city lord of Tong Lake City? Xiaohua asked in displeasure when he saw that Master Bihu did not introduce himself. At this moment, Kong Jing had already scanned the Changlin Pavilion with her divine sense and landed on Xiaohua. However, in addition to her divine sense, Kong Jing's originally pitch-black eyes suddenly glowed with 5 colors. Yes, this old man is the city lord of Tong Lake City, Master Bihu. Master Bihu realized that he was being a little rude and hurriedly cupped his hands with a smile. I didn't expect the famous fellow Daoist Zhang Xiaohua to come to my Tong Lake City. This is really a surprise. Zhang Xiaohua was about to speak when Kong Jing, who was beside Master Bihu, snorted coldly. You're just a nascent soul cultivator, yet you dare to pretend to be Zhang Xiaohua in front of this old man. If I don't let you know how powerful the Heavenly Alliance cultivators are, you'll think that the Heavenly Alliance cultivators are all idiots. While speaking, Kong Jing raised her hand and stretched out her 5 fingers, grabbing towards Xiaohua. Above the 5 fingers, a 5-colored light flashed from the 5 fingers, completely enveloping the surrounding hundreds of feet. A suffocating sealing force was actually born from this simple grasp. Fellow Daoist Kong. Master Bihu was stunned. He did not know why Kong Jing thought that Xiaohua was a fake and immediately attacked him. He could not help but shout in a low voice. However, seeing the 5-colored light appearing from Kong Jing's fingers, Master Bihu immediately understood what she meant. He secretly gritted his teeth and his figure flashed back slightly. He thought to himself, damn it. This Kong Jing must have some secret that she hasn't told this old man. Otherwise, how could she use the 5-colored sealing technique right off the bat? This Zhang Xiaohua must be the real Zhang Xiaohua. This guy wants to seal Zhang Xiaohua and send her to the Heavenly Alliance. No, send her to the Peacock Manor to ask for a reward. After all, this Zhang Xiaohua is really too important. Oh. Xiaohua was also very surprised. He looked in confusion at the light and shadow that sealed off the surrounding space. It wasn't because Kong Jing suddenly attacked him, but because this 5-colored light and shadow was very strange. It actually matched with the 5 elements. The 5-colored light and shadow controlled the power of the 5 elements in the surrounding space. Not only did it isolate the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, even Xiaohua's divine sense was showing signs of being restricted. However, just as the 5-colored light closed, Xiaohua smiled faintly. Ah, fellow Daoist, what is the meaning of this? Do you want to seal this old man? What? This Kong wants to seal you, the fake Zhang Xiaohua. Seeing that Xiaohua did not have the strength to fight back, Kong Jing could not help but laugh sinisterly. I'll take you to the ancestor and let him deal with you. Oh? Who is the ancestor of your family? Xiaohua said with a smile as if chatting, but at the same time, he waved his hand. Kacha. A burst of thunder sounded, and a giant hand of lightning appeared. That hand of lightning was like the condensation of a dragon's lightning. Under the lightning, a layer of annihilation was like a vast wave, flooding the 5-colored barrier. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote a monthly vote, vote a recommendation vote, collect a gift, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 49-40. Rumble. The entire Changlin pavilion shook with a loud roar. The bamboo pythons, which seemed to have some momentum earlier, were now like loaches under the might of the large thunderbolt hand and the five-colored light shadow. They were all defeated amidst the trembling sounds. Of course, along with the collapse of the bamboo pythons was the extremely powerful five-colored barrier in Master Bihu's eyes. Master Bihu stabilized his body in the shaking. Seeing that the five-colored light shadow was destroyed by the lightning hand, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He was shocked in his heart. Kong Jing is a void refinement cultivator like me. He may not have used his full strength, but this is the secret technique of the Peacock Mountain Manor's disciple. With Zhang Xiaohua's nascent soul strength, he couldn't have taken it so easily, right? Could it be that this Zhang Xiaohua is already a Mahayana cultivator? Not only was Master Bihu shocked, but Kong Jing was also stunned. He whispered, You actually recovered? However, Kong Jing only said half a sentence before he slapped his own forehead and shouted, It's only been 3 to 5 years. How much of your magic power can you recover? Boom. Kong Jing slapped his own forehead. However, unlike nascent soul cultivators, the top of his head didn't spurt out a beam of light or a nascent soul. Instead, his whole body was suffused with five-colored light. The light rushed into the air and condensed together. It was a five-colored peacock Dharma body that seemed to be somewhat solid. Damn it, the Dharma body of a true spirit nascent soul. Master Bihu saw this and didn't dare to be negligent. His body flashed quickly. Master Banished, who had already dodged to the side when Master Bihu appeared, was also shocked. He wanted to warn him, but when he saw that the space around him was already filled with five-colored light, he could only move his body to the side. As soon as Kong Jing's five-colored peacock Dharma body materialized, it immediately flapped its wings and pounced toward Xiaohua. The sealing power of the five-colored light shadow suddenly became several times stronger. Xiaohua wanted to activate his thunderbolt technique, but when he saw the banished king dodging in panic, he waved his hand and summoned the seal of the tumbling sea. He raised his finger, and the seal of the tumbling sea grew to the size of several acres. It smashed towards Kong Jing's five-colored peacock Dharma body like a giant mountain. However, what made Xiaohua's jaw drop was that the right wing of the five-colored peacock celestial body emitted a five-colored light screen before the seal of the overturn the sea landed. With a whoosh, it landed on the jade-like light of the seal of the overturn the sea, and the light of the seal of the overturn the sea was immediately extinguished. The rumbling sound also disappeared, and the five-colored light screen rapidly shrank. Haha, this five-colored sealing barrier is interesting. Xiaohua laughed and ignored the falling seal of turning the sea. He raised his hand and took out the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel from the space. When the cudgel grew to a size of several hundred feet, Xiaohua waved the cudgel and smashed it down. Seeing the seal of turning the sea being brushed down by the five-colored light, Kong Jing coldly snorted. She was still arrogant, and then she waved her left wing again, wanting to brush the cudgel away. However, when the five-colored light brushed past the cudgel trembled and only shrank a little. Boom. The cudgel still smashed into the five-colored peacock celestial body. Ao. The light around the five-colored peacock Dharma body shone brightly and then became extremely distorted. As Kong Jing wailed, the Dharma body carried him and rolled around in pain in Changlin Pavilion. The five-colored peacock Dharma body trembled and shrank back into Kong Jing's body. Moreover, with the withdrawal of the true spirit celestial body, the pain on Kong Jing's face doubled, and her left arm trembled involuntarily. Xiaohua smiled coldly and raised his hand to take back the seal of turning the sea. The wishful heaven cudgel in his hand also went into the space. Senior. Seeing Xiaohua defeat Kong Jing's true spirit celestial body, how could Master Bihu still regard Xiaohua as a nascent soul cultivator? He hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. Junior and Kong Jing had eyes but failed to see. Please forgive us, Senior. Kong Jing is also a person who abhors evil. Seeing that someone wanted to pretend to be Senior. Shut up. Xiaohua said coldly, do you think this old man can't see his intentions? Yes, Junior knows. Master Bihu's cultivation was similar to Kong Jing's, but as the city lord of Tong Lake City, he had much more experience than Kong Jing, who was a disciple of the Peacock Mountain Manor. He immediately followed Xiaohua's words and said, Junior also just understood his intentions. But what? Xiao Hua glanced at Master Bihu, causing Master Bihu's heart to tremble. But how could Master Bihu dare to let Kong Jing die in Tong Lake City? He hurriedly smiled and said, after all, he is also greedy for merit. Who let Senior be as brilliant as the sun in the Yilin continent, an existence that is the focus of hundreds of millions of cultivators. If we are lucky enough to invite Senior to the Peacock Mountain Manor, this would be a great merit. Do you know what is called a man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant? Xiao Hua looked coldly at Kong Jing, who was struggling to get up from the ground, and said, this old man gave you the Heavenly Alliance's spiritual root selection method and the primordial spirit cultivation method, but you are still not satisfied and want to capture me. Are you ready to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs? Could it be that you know that my magic power has not recovered, so you want to take advantage of my precarious situation and attack me first? Why don't you take a look at your own strength? You are only in the void refinement realm, and you dare to show off in front of me. If not for the fact that you are a junior, this old man will definitely kill you with this strike. Senior? Master Bihu heard and was even more frightened. He knelt down and said, Junior thanks Senior on behalf of Kong Jing for not killing me. Hearing Xiao Hua's words and seeing Master Bihu kneel in such a manner, the arrogant Kong Jing's face turned ashen. He finally lowered his head, kneeled and said, Junior thanks Senior for not killing me. Banished King and the other disciples of Shinming cult were dumbfounded. Who was Master Bihu and who was Kong Jing of the Peacock Manor? They were even more clear than Xiao Hua. They could never have imagined that these two experts, who they would normally never see face to face, would actually kneel in front of Xiao Hua. Seeing Kong Jing kneel down, Xiao Hua's anger was mostly gone. He flicked his sleeves and said, get up. Yes, it's all because of my greed. Although Kong Jing still had some resentment in his heart, he did not dare to say anything. He followed Master Bihu's words and said, Junior should not have taken advantage of the situation. There is nothing wrong with being greedy. Which cultivator in the world is not greedy? Xiao Hua looked at Kong Jing and said lightly, greed has to be moderate. Taking must be done according to the will of heaven and conscience. Only then can one have a solid Taoist foundation and be fearless. Kong Jing was still somewhat disdainful, but he still nodded. Master Bihu said humbly, yes, Junior understands. Perhaps Kong Jing does not feel these words deeply, but as the city lord of a big city, I really feel that these words are very harsh. Even if Junior understands, it is extremely difficult to do it. Junior will definitely correct himself in the future. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank all forms of support. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.